Hey everybody, welcome back to Philosophical Fall Guy. Here we talk to the industry's top stunt coordinators and go behind the scenes. Then we dive a little deeper to see what they ponder about in those moments of silence between the chaos. I'm your host, Duke Jackson. We have a special treat for you today. Our guest is an accomplished stunt coordinator and fight choreographer. His fight choreo helped win 3 separate Emmys for Best Stunt Coordination and was also recognized 4 years in a row for Best Fight Choreography. He is also an accomplished martial artist and holds a high rank in several different disciplines. He's known for such films as Black Panther, where he won a SAG award for Outstanding Stunt Performance by an Ensemble, The Amazing Spider-Man, where he was nominated by SAG for the same category, Captain America, The First Avenger, and Ant-Man, just to name a few. He is also the king of movie quotes, and has a particularly quick and quirky sense of humor.
Don't we all?
I'd like to welcome Dave Morizot. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, Duke. I appreciate you having me down.
Yeah, it's an honor to finally have you here. I know we've been trying to get you here for a while, and finally now our schedules worked out. So it's
it's been how long have we known each other? Like about 15, 20 years, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first time I met you was when I was doing the pirate show in California.
Okay.
Because you would come in every once in a while and do a show, right? And then I think you were like fight choreo.
That was on Chuck at the time, yeah.
You were
so
on
that
Chuck,
was in the
yeah.
2006 to 2009.
Yeah, 2009 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, it's good seeing you
It's
again.
been a while. Yeah, it's good seeing you. And then I followed you out to Atlanta.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
A
It
lot
was
of
really
people did,
hopping
yeah.
around 2012 to just recently, I guess.
Yeah. So getting to that, I usually kind of start out the beginning. So where did you grow up, and what did you do before you did stunts?
Well, growing up, we moved around a lot when I was a kid. My mom was very bohemian, so she liked to go different places, and so we were always, living out of boxes and sometimes living in tents.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And living, and one year my brother and I were like the new kids in 5 different schools.
Oh my God, that must be hard.
Yeah. Plus, my mom was a educator, so some years she would just homeschool us. But so it was, got to see a lot of places and got to meet a lot of people. And when you're a kid, you just think that's life. It's
Right.
not like you realize
There's
maybe
another
you're a little
way.
different from everyone else. But
Yeah.
then when I got to junior high, I actually got to go through junior high and high school in the same school in North Arkansas. And it was, some people were like, oh, yeah, this is my friend. We knew each other in kindergarten. I'm like, kindergarten? How do you do that? That's strange. But so it was interesting. And I always enjoyed martial arts. My grandfather was a fighter pilot in World War II.
Really?
And he
Wow.
he also was a judoka. So
Wow.
he would always, throw us around the house,
Uh-huh.
whenever we'd go visit him and my grandmother.
So was he a fighter pilot? Did he go over to Europe or Japan?
He was in European theater.
He was in Europe?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
He didn't really
That's
talk about it
cool.
very much, but of course we were kids.
Yeah.
And what do you say to kids?
Right. My grandpa was also in World War II,
Oh, okay.
but he wasn't a fighter pilot. He was in the Navy. But
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Fighter pilot. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he had some stories if he ever got to.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like people that are veterans from hot wars,
Mhm.
generally they'll talk most with their buddies that were there with them,
Right.
but they don't
Right.
necessarily just talk to anybody.
Mhm.
I don't know when you're under that kind of pressure, stress, and just not knowing what outcomes are going to be, I think that instills in you a sense of perhaps the average person who didn't go through something like that, maybe they won't understand.
They wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So similar to stunts.
Yeah, very, very similar.
How do you do
actually.
that? Well, you got to train. You got to do this. You got to do that. So.
Well, that kind of leads me to my my second question is, so you started martial arts, you said at 13, right?
Officially, yeah. You know, anytime we didn't live anywhere, plus we didn't have any money, so you know, joining martial, and you know, back in the 70s and 80s,
there wasn't that
it's not like
schools.
now. Yeah, there wasn't a martial arts school on every street corner.
This is like pre-Karate Kid days.
Way pre,
way
pre-Karate Kid.
It was like not so popular yet at that time.
Yeah, you know, there were some martial arts schools, but they weren't prevalent, and martial arts were taught different back then too. You know, you had to be tough to be in a martial arts school.
They didn't just give you participation belts back then.
Well, I'm not trying to disparage any school, modern school, because there was a reason for the schools being tough, because that's the way those instructors learned. They learned tough, and the school didn't, you know, because most martial arts schools weren't full-time professional schools. That's how they were making a living, paying all their bills and things like that. And so, you know, whenever you have an income other than the one that you're teaching for martial arts is not your primary income, then that kind of changes how you can view it. So they didn't want anyone that wasn't going to be tough, because they felt like that was dishonoring to them as a teacher, and then dishonoring to the art that they were teaching. So you know, these days I understand that, you know, but what happened was during the, you know, mid to early 80s, a lot of instructors started teaching professionally. You know, I only want to do this.
Right.
And they realized that running people out of the school that weren't the best athletes
It's not good for business.
Yeah, and weren't the toughest wasn't a good way to pay your bills, you know, because if you have a school, then you're spending, you know, for bills, you're pretty much buying like a used car every month.
Right.
And that's before you're even making any kind of money. So, you know, you have to look at it more as from a business point.
Sure.
And also in it, you know, and during that time, there still was a tough core students, and then which I think there still are today, but you know, but it's good to open it up, you know, because the way I view it now as versus back then was, well, anyone has a right to train, you know, and they don't have to be, you know, a cage fighter just because they want to learn martial arts.
Yeah, right.
So and they have a right to train, and they have a right to get better. They may not ever be someone, you know, that's the problem when you look at someone and they're wearing a black belt and they're not doing very well. And some people make fun of them. Well, it's just a McDojo or whatever. I'm always thinking, well, you don't know what kind of journey they had. You know, you don't know what they had to overcome to get that. Now, if they're physically gifted but just don't apply themselves, or maybe they don't have a good instructor, you know, I can't judge those things. But I have taught some students through the years. They didn't have a right foot from the left foot. They would look at the floor, wouldn't look at you in the face. They would mumble, and then by the time they got up to testing for a black belt or a black sash, you know, it's like a totally different person. They may not be doing very well. If you looked at them and you go, this person's not a martial artist, if that's all you know about them. But you didn't see the journey they made. You know, they actually traveled, you know, from L.A. to Jacksonville on foot on I-10, and nobody knows it, you know. So, you know, so and to me, it's like that's an accomplishment, and I'm more than willing to say, you know, give kudos to those people. They stuck with it, and they became better. They just may not be as good as a natural athlete. So
they might not be doing a lot of fancy tricks and things, but they've improved in their self-esteem, their character, their
the other tenets that people can't see physically. You know, martial arts should be instilling, you know, camaraderie, loyalty, compassion. You know, all these things. You know, a steadiness to your spirit, so to speak. You know, that you're not just going to fly off the handle at any moment. All these things that are kind of internal, those struggles that we all face anyway. But maybe we don't grow as much because we're already at more of a mature area in those areas, but they actually had to push for them. So, you know, not dropping out whenever you're not gifted for something, I think that's quite an accomplishment.
That actually takes a lot more. I think, and sometimes I've seen in my own experience with martial arts and other sports too, that sometimes the people that aren't as naturally gifted, they want it more and they put more effort into it, and they actually sometimes go further than the natural gifted ones because of it.
Well, yeah, there's that, because you can see that, because they also maybe understand the growth that they're getting, and
Right.
the
Right.
natural athlete may become bored with it, at a
Yes.
certain level.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't have anything else to offer me. I'll continue to do it, but I'm going to look around at other things. Maybe, I'm not judging anybody or any rank or any
Right.
discipline, but the thing is, the natural athlete, not all the time, but often isn't the best instructor either.
That's true.
Because things
Yeah.
come naturally to them. I've seen many times when
Mm-hmm.
a tremendous athlete, he's a great martial artist as well, but you ask them to teach someone who is having trouble, and they're like, well, so how do I do that? Well, you just kind of, you set yourself, you get ready, and then you do it. I'm like, well, that's not really the way to teach somebody. But someone who's had trouble,
Yeah.
even a moderate level of
Right.
trouble, not necessarily all thumbs and all left feet, but
Because
they've
they've
had
break
to
it
learn how to break it down,
down,
how
yeah.
to move little steps.
Right.
And so usually those are the better instructors for people, for the general population who maybe are just looking for fun, getting a little bit better in shape,
Sure.
getting a better sense of themselves, and progressing in their own life the way they want to.
Right.
That's probably the better instructor. Now, as for other natural athletes, sometimes the natural athlete is the best teacher for them, because when they say, no, you just line up, you focus, and then you do it, and they do it.
Right.
So
They
they
just
can
do it.
continue on that
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, knock the natural athlete. It's just
Sure.
that sometimes if your body's doing it without having to be told, because your reflexes understand without
What to
you
do.
necessarily in your brain understanding.
Right.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time in stunt work. I've seen it with some actors too.
Mm-hmm.
They just like Jennifer Garner in Alias. She was a ballet dancer.
Oh, really?
It's always a plus for me when I hear an actor does dance,
Mm-hmm.
because if I've got to teach them a lot of fighting stuff, because the nice thing is they have good body control. You say throw a left, they're going to throw a left. Say throw a
Right.
right, they're going to, they try to do it here. They're going to put it there. Plus,
Yeah. Yeah.
they have a mind for choreography. Dancers always have a mind for choreography.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's always a big stumbling block for someone who's
It
just
is.
a power athlete, sometimes remembering 12 moves down the road.
Yeah.
You gotta break it
Even
into
somebody who's a
smaller
really
pieces.
good martial artist, but it's like, remembering all of those beats in the fight and the acting beats and the reaction beats and all that can be a challenge, just coming from martial
It is,
arts.
especially if they don't have much camera experience, because I always tell this to an actor whenever when I do a first or second evaluation with them, or start training or something, is, well, when you hear the word action and you have a dialogue scene or dramatic scene or comedic scene, whatever it is, it's got a different kind of energy than when you're about to do some kind of action. The word action suddenly ramps up your adrenaline,
Right.
which makes you forget stuff, and also makes you look like you have five fingers. And you got to also remember, these actors, they feel the weight of the eyes that are on them just on the set, because
true,
and that can be intimidating for them. And I try to let them know, hey, listen, a lot of people, everybody on set's watching you, but they're not watching because they feel like they're watching to see them mess up. But I'm like, I try to reverse it. I'm
Right.
like, there's nobody on set. Or if there is, then we'll find them and we'll send them to Crafty. But but there's nobody on set that wants you to do poorly. Everyone's wanting to support
Yeah,
you and
right,
wants you to do well. That's the reason we're all there. It's
Yeah,
a team. The whole
exactly.
production is a team, and we all want to see the whole production go well.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, it takes a little bit of that heaviness off of them, and they feel a lot better about
Right.
it.
Right. So, was your grandpa kind of, was he instrumental in you getting into martial arts, or was that more just something you decided you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, my grandfather was, in a lot of ways, was a father figure at the time. When I was young, he was very, he always was funny. He always was making up words. And
Oh, yeah.
are you a Frunkle-knuckle? What the?
What?
No, I'm not. What is it? As a kid, you don't know. It's just funny, stuff like that, and always making jokes and stuff, and giving out sage advice without me realizing, that sage advice, like
That's
when
the
you're
best
trying to
way.
do something but it's not working, and he says, well, you know what, David, There's a lot of good ideas in the world, but very few right ideas. So you need to look for the right idea, you know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that one.
But actually, I guess the biggest thing is when I discovered, Hong Kong theater, on UHF channel 36, whatever, at Saturday nights at 10 o'clock. I used to, in junior high, I started dating in high school. I would always take my date home early on Saturday. Oh no, my dad said we could stay out longer. I've got something to do. Get home, get the popcorn made. Start dun, Hong Kong theater. So but just watching
that's
the
awesome.
Hong Kong theater was great, and Bruce Lee obviously. Most martial artists can recognize the name Bruce Lee, I think.
Yeah.
But, especially when you're
So.
in the 70s and the 80s, whenever a lot of Bruce Lee knockoffs and Jackie Chan.
Before him, there really wasn't much martial arts, period, but especially Kung Fu, really.
In American cinema.
Yeah, in America.
Yeah,
we
American
were like,
cinema.
what is that? Like, nobody knew the difference between Kung Fu, karate, judo, whatever. It was all, chop suey to them back then, it seems like.
Yeah, it was more presentation than actualization.
Right.
So I think that the biggest thing that Bruce Lee helped bring was a seriousness, because, Hong Kong theater goes through ups and downs of types of movies, just like any country or any area.
Right.
And for a long time they were on, the type of mystical kind of martial arts.
Right.
And Bruce
Right.
Lee, when he went back to Hong Kong after Green Hornet and after a few other projects they had a good hold on but didn't happen, so he went back and he brought a realism application-wise, but also he was an actor. He was a child actor. His parents, his father especially, was an actor in the Beijing opera. So he knew how to play it to the camera. He knew how to bring that intensity, and then also tell a little bit of a story with the action, with the fighting in particular, that made you want to see where things were going. And I believe that that's kind of what's influenced me with fight choreography, because I've always believed that, you should know something at the end of a fight that you didn't know at the beginning of the fight.
Oh, interesting.
You see so much action these days that almost it's like a video game. Well, was the goal of the fight just for one of the characters to win?
Right.
Or was there actually something that... Because I always, I learned, my undergraduate degree in college was in speech and theater, and generally any scene is supposed to be helping with at least one or all three of three questions. One is, does it help develop the plot? Two, does it help, describe something about the character development? Or three, does it help describe something about the world that this is all taking place in, world building?
Okay.
And so without any of those, it's hard for me to know why this is happening. You know what I mean?
I just wanted to go back because I want to try to remember this. A plot about the character or about the world.
The world,
of
yeah.
that particular
Yeah, because
script
you can,
or-
even in a fight, even in any stunt, let's say it's a car jump, but there are ways you can do that are going to help advance, if nothing else, learn something about the overarching, even if it's just a general, what's the overarching thrust of this production, of this script? Once you know that, let's take a real famous martial arts film that kind of greatly impacted martial arts television and film of today was the first Matrix. And can you tell me the overarching theme in that film?
The overarching theme,
action-wise.
action-wise,
Yeah.
just action-wise, is for
And they say it a lot in the beginning of the film.
Neo to beat the machines,
Well,
or Mr. Smith, or
that's the direction that they're going. So
the
that's a little bit of the
direction
MacGuffin, the device that you're trying to get to. But the overarching theme was, if you see an agent, you run. Because even from the opening scene, see an agent, you run. You run.
right.
And Neo's the first person. Stop.
stop.
Turn around. Get out of there, Neo. Hit his pose, and then he fought the agent.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's where the twist in the story happens, and suddenly we see that Neo is probably, he gets shot, so we're thinking, well, maybe he wasn't, but that's a strange place for this film to go.
Right.
And then we realize what the Oracle said, well, you're not ready, maybe it's the next life, and then that's when he stands back up
Right.
after the love from Trinity. So,
yeah.
but that overarching theme, so that's the way the fighting was happening, let's get out of here.
Was just basically all the other humans that were in the Matrix. They just want to try to get away from the agents.
Yeah, all the ones that have been
Neo actually
unplugged.
was like,
Yeah, because
trying to
any
fight.
person that they meet in the world
Could
could
be.
be an agent.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
But if you watch any film or episodic, it's going to have an overarching theme. Hopefully, if it's episodic in the episode, maybe it's an overarching theme for the entire
For the
season,
whole series
or
season.
season, whatever. I can break it into whatever.
Right.
But it's really interesting to try to implant those whenever you're designing action, which is the fun part of action. You're helping to tell the story.
Yeah. Right.
You're creating stuff. You don't
Not
get
just
a
a
script.
fight for a fight's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, or anything. Oh, let's have a horse running down the street. Okay, well, why we have a horse running down the street? So,
Right.
how about a ham sandwich? Oh no, not a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
You can make anything make sense, but try to do it logically.
And
how
I
it
would say, I'm
happens.
not going to point out any movies, but there's movies I've watched where you can tell they just want to do some cool stunts, and they do the cool stunts, but there's no well, what's the reason for it, or why is it here, or there's no story that it helps out with. It's just, it's a cool stunt.
Yeah, and if a sequence doesn't have to be stunts, but if a sequence or a part of a project of a film or episodic could be taken away, and not that it could still survive, but it doesn't make a difference to the rest of the story.
Right.
Why is that sequence in?
Right.
And can you make it make
sense.
a reason?
Yeah.
Give it a reason. So that's basically what I tell people when I'm teaching, especially less experienced stunt people. Well, why are you doing this? Because I'm always open for any stunt performers to send me fights that they've done and edited and or whatever, and they ask my opinion and I give it to them. I like stuff. I'm not yelling at anybody. This looks like crap. Well, I don't think it looks like crap.
You're like, another park fight. Oh.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Parks are so dangerous these days.
Well, yeah, that or I've seen that bridge in 5 different videos from 8 different people. But it's no big deal because people, they train in circles and also whatever's been popular the last few years or whatever. That's generally what they're going to try to do, which makes sense because that's going to get you hired. But one of my most common questions is, why is this happening? Did you even put that in there? Because a lot of them I can't tell. Well, who am I supposed to be rooting for?
Right, exactly.
What's the goal? Is it just to get out of the car?
Right. Interesting. So that reminds me of when a long time ago, and I was in Japan doing the Viking show, and there was this bridge on the way to work, and it was a cool bridge. It looked cool. And I believe it was probably somewhere in around of like 50, 60 feet, down to the water. And me and my buddy, you probably know him, but Brian Orley.
Oh, yeah.
We got there at the same time, and we're like, let's jump off that bridge, and film it. And then we're like, well, let's build a whole story around it. So we ended up making a whole little movie that was probably 10 or 15 minutes long. And it was all about 2 cops in Japan who go there to get a Yakuza guy. And that particular thing was we're walking down the bridge because we got our car towed or something. And one of the Yakuza guys is coming at us. And he comes to try to hit us. So we have to jump over the railing. And then he comes out of the car with a gun. So we have no choice but to jump, So there was like some kind of motivation to it instead of just like, oh, let's jump off a bridge.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example of letting a possible location and then a stunt that works that location help be a seed to
Right.
want to tell a story,
Right.
you know, because you can't just, well, someone jump off a bridge and there you go.
Yeah, that's
You know,
not so
you
exciting.
yeah, to tell the story, well, you got to put a few more brain cells onto
Right.
it and see what comes out. But that's the reason that if something just comes out of nowhere in a
Yeah.
fight and an action sequence and a car sequence, it's okay for that to happen, but you need to have a payoff for it
Right.
somewhere. You know,
Yeah. It's gotta be
you
a
need to let
reason.
somebody know why that happened somewhere sooner or later, because it's always going to be a question in the back of an audience who's paying attention's head. Now, if they're just watching it like a video game, they don't really care.
Right.
Well, you know, then that's fine, but you should still answer those questions. You know, I remember, and I forgot what the show was. I was in a production meeting, and you know, my problem is logic. You know, I like for things to make sense. You know,
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with someone going to watch, say, Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and to go, well, if I was Superman, I think I would have done that, because I feel like that's the better reaction than, why the heck is Superman doing this?
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Why is he breaking into where they have the kryptonite when he knows it's in there? That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any
you know,
sense. Yeah.
Unless you give stakes. Why does he have to do it? You
Right.
know? So,
Right.
I think that's in. You know, sometimes I ask those questions in production meetings. Well, why are they doing this? And well, but earlier they did that, so now they're doing something opposite. Is that a point? You know, problem? Yeah, I don't try to do it annoyingly. Just try to, when it comes to the action side of
Sure,
it. I'm not trying to just speak up whenever it's a general conversation going on. But often I get told, you know, David, don't pull on that thread. You don't want to unweave
Don't
the
pull on
whole
that
thing.
thread.
But you know, I just have this feeling like, well, if we treat the audience like idiots, then only idiots are going to like the show.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
why
true.
not? You know, because the audience, generally people are really interested in something and engaged. They're already thinking 5 steps ahead, and it's great whenever you don't necessarily go that direction. But that's an involvement that
Right.
I don't know. You don't see a lot these days. I don't know.
No, you don't.
Just because of a little bit less deep storytelling or
Yeah.
what, but it just seems like some things are so obvious, and then you just go right to the obvious all the time. And I'm like, well, that's not in-depth storytelling. At least they have a goal. But.
Mm-hmm. I feel like well, The Matrix was a good example of that. Is such great action and cinematography, everything in that movie. But man, it made you the whole time. Your gears are spinning. You know, you're thinking. You know, and kind of blows your mind a little bit actually. And I think that's like those are the greatest, man, when they can.
Yeah, the payoff.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not a full payoff, there's still problems. You're like,
Right.
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
But I
that's
mean,
why we got
and
our
there's a lot of
sequels.
projects like that, you know, and not everybody has to like them. It's okay, you know.
Right.
And that's another problem I think with, perhaps, what's the saying? We're probably at the point in time when humans are most interconnected, and yet so separated.
So separated.
You know, which is a
very
strange
interesting.
dichotomy. So I'm
It
like,
is,
you know, it's
yeah.
okay for you to pass on by someone's post on a social media when you don't even know them, who
Right.
they are, who
Yeah.
their friends are, or anything. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
It
know
is.
why.
We live
That's
in
like
strange
walking down the
times.
street, someone's on the phone, and you walk up going, no, that's not.
Take their phone from them.
Who are
and stuff.
you? Yeah. It's like-
Yeah, we live in some crazy times, man. Let's see. So,
I know I got us off track. Sorry.
nope, I love it. I don't care at all. That's fine. But I did want to go back to, do you think the martial arts played a key role in you becoming a stuntman?
I think if you view it correctly, martial arts plays a key role with who you become anyway.
I like that. Yeah.
Anything that you learn, anything you spend time with is going to inform the future you. It's going to build the future you. And I feel that a lot of people maybe don't understand that when they're starting any kind of discipline, whether it's athletics or if it's writing their own book or just reading or whatever. What you start off doing is never going to be your intent at that point. Is probably going to, when you get to the point that you thought you were going to actually, the point that you had set as the first goal or even a middle goal or whatever, it's going to change just because
Sure.
you learn more about yourself. You learn more about, if it's, say, martial arts, we'll stick with that. If you learn more about the art, you learn more about yourself, and you also learn more about the world in general.
Mm-hmm.
there seems to be the biggest rift in martial arts seems to be between people wanting it to be an art and wanting it to be combat. And I don't really see that as much of a rift. It's a focus to me, you know.
Right.
But if everything is combat, that is, you know, can be an art, because the way you move can be poetry in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, you know, like Bruce Lee felt that you know, when he started adapting, adding adaptation to his skills, you know, he's like, well, you don't want to be a fish trying to swim on dry land, you know. So that's when he was starting to feel like he could discard what was useful, but he also knew a lot at that point.
Right.
So
Right.
he made intelligent decisions rather than discarding them without knowing anything.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, most of the combat is generally in specific arenas, so to speak. You know, whether it's MMA or whether it's boxing or whether it's Muay Thai or, you know, just anything that has, as judo calls it, randori, you know, you're actually rolling on the ground and doing things. And those are great, but, you know, if you're talking about pure street combat, and I'm not talking about ego fights like in a bar or when people start having arguments, somebody throws a punch, you know, when you're talking about a criminal act, criminals, you know, criminals aren't looking for a fight, they're looking for a victim. So whenever you're training in anything physically, it can be, you know, weightlifting, tennis, whatever, generally you carry yourself a little bit differently. And in training in martial arts, you'll carry yourself a little bit differently. Hopefully, I mean, the best self-defense is awareness, looking around, seeing what's around you,
Right.
knowing what could be trouble, knowing where escape routes are, just doing that as a habit, you know, having what they call in the military a swivel head, you know, looking around.
Yeah.
Because then you look a lot less like a victim and more like a fight, and they're going to most likely, if they've targeted you for some reason, they're going to pass you by. Because they're not looking for a fight, they're looking for a victim. And the two most common street techniques are the sucker punch, you know, distraction, wham, and we're seeing it more and more on like Twitter and everything else, or X, the ambush, you know, that's a huge thing. A bunch of people all on one.
Right.
You know, and I'm not familiar with every single martial art in the world, but, you know, if you're distracted intentionally, because they're going to be good at this if they've done it 100 times, 1,000 times, whatever, or 10 people jump on top of you, hopefully martial arts will give you a little bit of an edge.
Right.
But other than that, nobody's got the super sauce that suddenly you're undefeatable and you're going to come out okay. I mean, there was a Korean martial artist, Jun Rhee. He's called the father of American Korean karate at that point, you know, Taekwondo. He came from Korea and was teaching Taekwondo, and he was in great shape. Up to the day he died, he was like doing 100 push-ups and all this kind of stuff. He's just an incredible athlete. He actually was a contemporary of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee learned some things from him. You know, just like any martial artist, just like any stunt person, swap ideas, swap training, hey, thought about this, thought about this. You know, you gotta always be learning and having an open mind. But but he was, you know, some guys hung out in the parking lot because, you know, oh, he's a tough guy, and, you know, jumped him and beat the crap out of him. Everybody's like, oh, his martial arts don't work. Well, you get 4 or 5 or 6 guys jumping on you with the intent of doing you harm. Good luck. I mean, it's not an invisible shield. You know, you got to look at things a little more realistically. You know, martial arts helps you, but it isn't.
It does make you Superman.
Yeah, it's
like
not.
the movies tend to show.
Yeah, exactly.
It does.
Even in a cage, even in, you know, UFC or MMA or something. I mean, in the boxing ring or a fight ring, you have pretty much logical starts and stops. You have rules. You have, you know,
there's constrictions.
The other person's trying to win, not kill you.
Yeah.
Or hurt you very badly. Hopefully, you know, if they are, then hopefully they get out of the sport. They're taken out of the sport because that's not sportsmanship.
Right.
So you have to think about those things, you know. And I diverged from all the questions that you asked, so I apologize.
That's okay. That's all right.
But I look at, you know, because a lot of people through the years have asked me, you know, what should I train in? And I get to the point where I have 3 answers for them. You know, I say, well, there are 3 things you need to ask yourself. 1, what do you like? What do you like to do? What do you think of when you think of martial arts? 2, what's near you? Because, you know, if you choose something, you know, 30 miles away,
It's
You know,
gonna
a
be
lot of
hard
people
to
live
get
right
there.
across the street from their gym, and they don't ever get there.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, that's right across the street. And then three, how much money are you able and willing to devote to it?
devote,
Because
And time.
time and money, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Time and money, that's
Yeah.
all in the same thing. And then location, and what are you interested in? If you're not interested
Right.
in it, let's say you want to do a lot of forms, and maybe you want to do Tai Chi or something, which has a lot of benefits to it as well. And you end up taking, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Are you going to love it? Maybe, because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great. It's a
Right.
great art.
Yeah.
But if you really were wanting to learn Tai Chi, you're probably still looking, you know, in some form or fashion for what you initially were interested
Right.
in. So.
Yeah. That's a good point. When I started into, because I did Kempo karate when I was I think I started around 16 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing, it was close to me because, like you said, at that time there wasn't a great deal of variety.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of shingles out that were people that didn't know what they were doing.
yeah, exactly. but one thing I liked about it with that particular martial arts was it had a lot of forms, and I really enjoyed the forms. I could go in the park and practice my forms, and it put me in a different place and the space, and I just, you know, it gets your mind and your body going, and yeah, like, you know, that's probably why I probably didn't gravitate towards the fighting part. Actually, I didn't really like fighting actually that much, but and the sparring and stuff, I thought the forms were cool, you know.
Well, the nice thing about the forms is they're like textbooks, in my opinion. Each form, again, I go back to what I just said about, you know, storytelling. But each form should have a general thrust. And if you look at a form, like an entry-level form, no matter what style it is, it's teaching entry-level stuff, but those are
Right.
concepts. And then the next form, or maybe later in the same form, is adding to those. These are still there, but they're not focusing on, they're adding, you know.
Right.
And then when you get to black belt level or black sash level, which is mostly in most arts considered where you really have a good intermediate skill, now you can really start learning.
Right.
In some arts, it takes so long to get there that you are at mastery level and probably are pretty close, you know, which is nothing wrong with that, you know, because,
Right.
you know, all different rankings are mainly just to show where you are in your own personal
In your own
training. It
personal,
doesn't have anything to do with the school. It's your
Right.
personal training. So, you know, and I've had some many conversations on that too. The belt ranking system, it was adopted by Americans so they can make money. I'm like, well, actually, no. The modern belt ranking system was created by Jigoro Kano, the founder of the Kodokan, the one who basically created jiu-jitsu. I mean, judo out of jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
Japanese jiu-jitsu. You know, he's the one who instituted a belt ranking
belt
system
ranking.
for the Kodokan. And,
Interesting.
you know, it wasn't as complicated as some of the belt ranking systems today with
Right.
all the colors, but even in a system, a lot of Kung Fu doesn't have belt ranking systems, so, but they still have, this is the beginner area, this is the intermediate area, this is the advanced
advanced,
area, these are the Sifus.
I actually was surprised when I actually went to Japan and went to some different martial art places in karate and aikido that the real traditional ones, they didn't have anything but your white belt and black belt. It's like, yeah, black belt just means, okay, now you're really getting somewhere.
Yeah, black
and
belt
then they
is a
have
white
first
belt who
degree,
didn't quit.
second, third, fourth, fifth. What was that?
A black belt is a white belt who just didn't quit, you know.
Right.
So.
Right.
And because you don't want to, I feel like in some ways that is the Americanization of it. If you hyper focus on rank, you know, and there are people that do that. I respect rank, and it doesn't matter to me who it is or what the rank is. I'm going to give them respect because they're training, you know. But
Right.
mostly that's what I respect, the fact that they are training. Some people, they get a rank and then they stop training and they haven't trained in 30 years. I was like, well, I'm not exactly sure if you're still a martial artist if you never
Yeah,
trained.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've experienced horseman, but then you don't ride for 30 years, you're probably going to be pretty rusty you know, by
Yeah.
the time. Doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
you know, so it's the same thing with martial arts. But I feel that, you know, don't get too tied up in ranking systems, but also realize the nuggets that are in there. They're trying to, what's the thrust of this? What is this teaching you? And you can look at that, and you can also see the overarching theory of the art that you're watching, you know, because let's say Kempo is what that means, fist method, right?
Closed fist.
Yeah, closed fist or fist method.
Or
you know,
fist,
it's
Way of
kanji,
the fist,
so
I
it's
think.
it can be a lot of different, you know, how
Small
you pronounce
or-
it in the back of your throat depends on what
Right.
you're actually doing.
Right.
But you know, so it focuses on a lot of hand techniques. You know, hands are quicker, more accurate, with some kicks. I'd
Yeah,
say-
it was mostly, I would say, about 70-30, like 70 hands and maybe 30
and 30 kicks. Yeah, with joint locks and
Yeah,
joint
lots of those,
destructions
yeah.
and takedowns and all that kind of stuff, which is great. Even some ground fighting. Most every older system will have ground fighting in it.
A little bit at least.
Yeah, just probably not, you know, enough to know that, because especially if it's, you know, if it's if it's derived from a battlefield art, generally it won't have a ton of ground fighting in it. It will have locks and stuff, which you could apply on the ground.
Right.
But if you're on a battlefield, then in a military situation, then being on the ground is not very good.
No.
You know, because it's a battlefield.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but you know, there's a lot of different opinions on ground fighting. I think that learning how to fight on the ground should be an integral part of any martial art. You should get to some level of competence, at least,
agree.
of understanding
I think
what
most fights end up on the ground.
if they go
Eventually, if
past
they go,
10 seconds. Most fights
if there's
are
not
short.
a knockout real quick, it's
Yeah, most fights are short, but if you got to understand how to survive on the ground and nothing else, how to not get worn out in any kind of fight situation, but especially on the ground.
Right.
So, because you get gassed out and
That's it.
martial arts out the window at that
Yeah.
point. So,
Yeah. Well, just as the thought just came up, have you ever had to use your martial arts on the street in any way? Like, has it come to that point for you at any time?
you know, it's come close several times. I remember the very first overseas project that I did with my buddy John Medlin was stunt coordinating a project for Warner Brothers International back in the early 90s in Vilnius, Lithuania. And, you know, we didn't, you know, they weren't renting anybody cars. Of course, there weren't a whole lot of rental cars.
Right.
That was right after the Iron Curtain fell. So
okay.
there's a lot of schism between the Lithuanians and the Russians at that point that were there. But we got, you know, so you generally you take a cab to wherever you were going, and we only had one day off on that anyway. You know, Sundays were the only day off on that show.
Yeah.
But you know, but you'd try to get out. You know, you had to do your laundry and stuff anyway. But you try to get out, just catch a little bit of air,
Right.
get away from the hotel and work all the time. But we got into someone's, you know, to go. It was at night that night, and we got into someone's cab to. They said they were a cab driver to, to go back to the hotel, and they took us to the hotel. But then they were trying to charge us an enormous amount of money when we got there, and
Wow. That's
and
quite
the nephew of Warner Brothers International was in the front seat, and John and I and John's wife Alicia were in the back seat, and we, you know, I'm like, well, I see where this is going, because that guy, the driver's starting to get really, you know, he keeps pointing at the dashboard, but he doesn't have a cab. It's just a car, and it was a clock. He kept pointing at. I'm like, that's a clock. What are you pointing? You know, and I had some. The money back then was called the Lita. We called them just Lits. But I had plenty of Lita, so I'm like, I can just pay for the whole thing. And, you know, the person up in the front was, oh, no, we're not paying that. And he's just arguing with the person. And I'm like, John, let's get Alicia
out of there at least.
And I went ahead and handed, I don't want to name the person in front, but handed them my money. And I'm like, listen, you figure it out. And I got out. John, he always had a video camera with him. He wasn't videoing that, but, you know, so he wanted to get that in too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, because it was one of those, before miniaturization, one of the big shoulder ones.
Oh, really?
So he got it out. And as soon as we got out, and I went around and I grabbed John's camera, and he was grabbing it out, but I had gotten Alicia's wife out. Sean opened the door, and the driver grabbed him. I said his name, and pulled him in.
Wow.
You know, in the front seat, and pulled him in and took off. Whoa!
What?
We're like, whoa! And so I the camera, hand Alicia, and I said, and I opened the door. We're right at the hotel. I opened the door. Please go in the lobby. Go in the lobby. And John took off, and I took off after that. After I got her, and then her just standing there.
Yeah.
And I could see them fighting, struggling inside the car, and guy looked like he was punching. He's getting on top of the representative up in the front, and John got there first, and he opens the car door, and wham, kicks that guy back off of our associate there, and he slams in the other side of the car, and goes, and I grabbed the driver's door. I got there at that point, and I opened it up, and the guy's reaching under the seat. He's reaching for something. He's reaching for something. So I grab him, and I pull his hand out from under the seat, and then he gets up, shoves me off, and I'm ready. I'm waiting to see what he's going to do, and he takes off. He takes off running back to the hotel. We got it. We're looking at each other, and we asked our associate, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. He had got hit here, and then a little scrape, but he was okay, and we got it.
Crazy.
What the freak is this going on? And we went up and went in the hotel, and the guy's yelling at the person behind the desk, and the manager comes out, and he's like, "What's this going on?" And because the guy yelling Lithuanian or whatever, and he's like, the guy yells at him, and he's like, and he looks over, and the manager looks over at us and says, "He says that you refused to pay him when we're robbing him," and we're like, "No, he just was." The normal cost is this, and he was wanting to charge this, and he went, "Oh," the manager went, "Oh,"
and then he drove off with my guy sticking out of his car.
And he went, "Oh," I didn't know if the police were going to show up or what, and the manager went, "Oh," and he looks over and he says one thing to the guy looks at him, looks at us, and he leaves. And John asked him, "What did you tell him?" He said, "I asked to see his taxi license. If he does not have one, he goes to jail."
Oh.
So we were looking over our shoulders after that, but
wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, but that's a tense moment. You're like, your adrenaline hits, everything slows down. Hopefully, your reflexes, and just being able to, one, not overdo, but two, do what needs to happen.
I would imagine it gives you at least a little sense of confidence that you're capable of taking care of yourself in the situation.
Yeah, like under specific situations. You don't want to be overconfident.
You don't want to be overconfident, right? But at least it's in your tool house, all these things that you could possibly use if you had to, right? I
think so. We definitely wouldn't have chased after a cab, supposed if it wasn't someone else in there that we needed to get out.
Right.
But I think that if you can know yourself and know your battleground, and then hopefully know your opponent, and those are the things that will help you get to victory, some kind of victory. But you just want the nice thing about martial arts is it kind of helps you, especially the combat side of it, because you line up against somebody in your training hall, and if you don't know them, then there's a little bit of energy. A little bit of adrenaline. If you go to a tournament or something, well, now it's somebody from a totally different school, totally different style, so you get some more adrenaline. Those things help teach you how to handle adrenaline. Doing stunts is the same thing. You don't want to go blank, or you don't want to get the adrenaline shakes, because when adrenaline hits, it can make you sick to your stomach, can make you forget what your name is, It gives you that tunnel vision.
Gives you tunnel vision,
Yeah, so, and it can make you rush, which, you don't want to rush.
Yeah.
Especially in doing a stunt, so.
Sure, yeah. So,
but if I can diverge one more time, no, just kidding.
Well, it's kind of crazy because you're basically answering the questions before I get to them. So, because I wanted to get to that particular one here in a minute, but just to back up a little bit. So I remember you mentioning you graduated from the University of Central Arkansas with degree in speech and theater, and then you got a master's in diplomacy.
Diplomacy with emphasis in conflict management and resolution.
Oh,
it's a
wow.
mouthful,
That's
so.
Well, I'm sure those have all come in pretty handy in the stunt business.
Yeah, I think so, especially. I think they help just in interpersonal communications, so to speak. As far as speech and theater, I think, why are we there? Well, we're there to help the actors in some form or fashion.
Right.
Actors
Right.
are as varied as anybody is. You can't say, well, that person's
That's
a
a
banker,
great way
and they're always
to.
going to act like bankers.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of different.
that's a good view to have. I don't think a lot of stunt people that clicks that you're not there you're not there for you. You're there to help the story, and you're there to help the actor look good or
Exactly, as much as
accomplish
possible,
something.
feel comfortable,
Right.
and to be able to do what they need to do because they're the
Right.
face.
Mm-hmm.
You might be stunt acting and that you have your face in there, but you're probably not the face that people are going to remember, which is good because then you can go tomorrow work on another thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
The actor, they're going to be on that thing. And it's probably going to be a little while before they're on another thing because their face, they don't want to overuse their face either. So.
Right. Right. True. So I guess basically that was all to say that all of that played a key in helping you become a stunt coordinator and fight choreographer.
Coordinator, choreographer, or coordinator. There weren't, when I was hired to fight coordinate on Alias, there weren't a lot of fight coordinators, and the ones that were hired through the stunt coordinator, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that about sunk me
That was
initially.
a good point. I actually wanted to ask you that because looking through your IMDb, I noticed that you jumped into coordinating in fight choreography very early on in your career. I was curious, like, how did that transition or develop?
Well, it's interesting. John and I had been putting together stuff for a while. We'd done some.
And this is John
Medlin. Sorry.
Medlin.
Yeah,
John Medlin.
John.
Okay.
He's like one of my best friends. And he and I think real similarly. He's a much smarter person and much better martial artist and stuff. But he.
I didn't know he's a martial artist, John Medlin.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic martial artist. He just doesn't talk about stuff like that very much. He doesn't like to blow his own horn. I've kind of been on that bandwagon a little bit. I don't mind talking about martial arts because I love martial arts, so I just talk about them. But especially the other martial artists. Not that we're comparing notes. It's just I like to talk to the people, find out who they are, find out what they're doing. Yeah. What kind of people are these? And most of the time, just like anywhere, but most of the time, people that are competent at things generally are very giving people and respectful people. That they're comfortable with their competency. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're over comfortable with it, but I think any of us can probably hit those days. So.
Yeah. So he was a key to helping you kind of jump to
Yeah,
that
we started,
level?
I think one of the first episodics we did was a show called WMAC Masters back in 92, I think it was.
WMC, what's that stand for? WMC?
World Martial Arts Council
Okay.
Masters. It was a kids show. It was actually produced by 4Kids Productions. Now, they were a very small production at that company at that time. Mm-hmm. They became big because they bought they bought the rights to bring Pokemon to the United States. So and then once they got it here, they had the right formula for getting it on some television stations and also to promote it, and it went sky high. And so they actually grew pretty well. But it was kind of like a cross between a video game because there were these power bars and also a battle. The final battle was in a battle dome. They had key symbols that once somebody won, it stayed. The person that lost their key symbol would blow up. Something. They were competing for what was called the Dragon Star, which was it's almost like professional wrestling in a way, as far as that overarching story. But they were real martial artists. Herb Perez, that very first season, we had 3 seasons, but very first season, Herb Perez, Olympic Taekwondo gold medalist.
Wow.
Johnny Lee, Jamie Lee Webster, Willie Bam Johnson, Hien Nguyen, Eric Betts, baby doll Bridget Riley, had Sophia Crawford, Christine Bannon Rodriguez, Michelle Krasnu.
Wow.
Just had a lot of Carmichael Simon. Just were at the time in those days, those were Richard Brandon. They were like top-notch martial artists in the martial arts communities. Everybody knew these people, and we started working with them.
What year is this around?
It's around 92. I think it was released in 93. I don't remember exactly, a lot of years. You hit your head enough times. And
Yeah, I know.
I think it was yesterday. No.
But somewhere in that.
Yeah, it was early
90s.
'90s. It was early '90s. It's on. You can watch all the episodes on YouTube, I think, for
Oh, really?
free.
I
Yeah,
have to check that
it's been
out.
around long enough.
Hmm.
There's a book out. Someone did a lot of interviewing with a lot of the cast members,
Mm-hmm.
and then also with some of us. He actually got in touch with me and asked me some questions because we were more of the. I mean, I had a role in the very first one. John O, the local tough guy gang leader, but
So I'm trying to pick. So this is a. It's not like interviewing or talking to the martial artists. It's actually like a storytelling.
It's a story, yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
each character has their key symbol, and that ties into their martial arts style, and also ties into who they are. You know,
Interesting.
like Jamie Lee Webster. You know, whenever he would compete on the tournament circuit, he was representing the Cherokee Nation. You know, so it was like his key symbol was the wolf and all this stuff, and just Herb Perez was Olympus or something like that, Olympian or something like that, and so everyone had their key symbol. Eric Betts was Black Panther, basically not Black Panther from Marvel, but just Panther.
Right.
But so everyone had their key symbol. Richie Brandon was one of the few kung fu, strictly kung fu people. So his was a yin yang symbol. They call him Yin Yang Man. Problem is they used all their real names, and a lot of these guys and ladies, they had they had schools they were teaching at.
Yeah, right.
And Richie, I remember that first season. Richie he went to the producer. He's like, "Hey, because he wasn't written to win any of these fights." And he's like, "I'm losing students. I think I
gotta win some fights."
And that's the problem with having your name on your face in a show
people
like
take
that.
it a little too literally.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like soap operas. They get mad at you should treat that girl better. They see him in the grocery store or something in L.A. and it's like, I can't believe you treated her that way. Well, it was just a script. I was just playing a character.
You ever heard of acting?
Yeah, exactly. But it was a lot of fun. It's funny though because I didn't assume that many people knew what WNC Masters was, but when I talked to a lot of the younger up and coming stunt people, I watched that all the time when I was a kid. I loved that.
That's cool.
And I'm like, wow.
That's cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fun. There's a lot of guys because, I'm out a while too, but way back in like mid '90s, I did this Three Ninjas movie, and there's I've so many stunt guys, they're probably in their 30s or something like that, but man, I watched that movie over and over and over again when I was a kid. And I'm like, really? That one? Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting, something that kind of grabs you when you're younger or even not that young, and you just feel like you want to watch it 5 million times.
And for me, it was Jaws.
Jaws.
I loved that movie as a kid, man. Weirdo, but yeah.
When I hear Jaws, I think of the film, the Spielberg film.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. It got made. You know the story behind it and everything, probably. Yeah, it's like
miracle.
Yeah, he was gifted with being very practical when he needed to be. That movie kind of made Spielberg, but it was a disaster on set. The robotic shark didn't work. They had nothing to shoot. He's the one that made the decision to make it all POV, which set a genre after that. All of a sudden, all these POV movies started coming out. And and
it was all by necessity.
Yeah, and character driven. Well, that's a nice thing. I think that's one of the problems with extremely large budget, say, films.
Right.
Because with a large budget, you want to be innovative.
Exactly.
Which is nothing wrong with being innovative, but it's not. But with a small budget, you have to be very particular. You have to be very creative.
Very creative.
And I think creativity is what people are looking for in a project. I don't think the innovation is great, but there's always going to be something new. So
that's a good point. Like, when you have unlimited funds, you're actually not as creative as when you've got limits on things and you figure it out.
Well, it's because you have to make tough decisions when you have to be creative. Right. You have to cut muscle, But if you're going to shoot everything anyway, well, there's a reason that some directors that have a style, let's say Tarantino, he only shoots a one-camera set and he only shoots exactly what he wants edited because he doesn't want there to be footage around.
Right.
Also, he shoots on film, but he doesn't want there to be footage around that someone else later on could edit together. And he's like, why is there a director's edit? Why isn't that just the edit,
Right.
And so I feel like, and that's another problem with digital cameras, I feel, especially looking at project lengths these days. before digital cameras. I'm not saying they're a problem. I think that they're fantastic, and we should definitely be using them. But the thing is about a film camera is you had to purchase film stock to shoot on, to film on.
Right.
And you only had a
It's
certain
not
amount
cheap.
of film stock, so you couldn't just shoot
Endless.
500 takes or something.
Right.
And then it also upped the ante a little bit on cost. This is what we can afford for the film stock. Then you have to send it to the chemist. They have to develop it.
Yeah.
They create a negative. From the negative, you create a positive. You view it, maybe see what kind of, do a test screening after it's been edited. Probably another couple of edits. Very rarely did they go back for reshoots or additional
Right.
photography. Because the reason for that's another reason too, but it's a different reason. But then if you wanted to put out in 1,000 theaters, well, you have to create 1,000 positives now.
All those reels have got to be.
Yeah,
graded.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's all money. That's the reason
money, yeah.
back in those days, especially before digital, they didn't, let's say you had 50 stunt people on a project, they'd say, well, pick your top 15 or pick your top 20. They're the ones that are going to put in the film
the credits.
in the screen credits. That's the reason so many uncredited, and especially those early days.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, they still may do that, but it may be because of the genre of the film where they don't want to make it look like, well, they had 4 actors and 23 stunt people. There are reasons for everything other than just monetary. So, there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice, though, if you work on something to get your screen credit, because that's, especially if you're not recognizable, say you're a double or something, it's like, well, that's the only time that you get actually recognized.
Right. That's the only time they can watch your name scroll up and say, see, I really was in it.
Or people that you haven't heard from years, they suddenly send you a text or give you a call and say, hey, I saw your name in The Prince, with Bruce Willis. And I'm like, gosh, The Prince, I was there 2 days.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ho Sung, for getting me on that.
Right,
You had some good screen time, and you had some dialogue, and you fell down. It looked like you got shot. Well, that was what I was hired to do, get shot.
Yeah. Well,
It's just interesting. So I really feel that knowing what a project had to go through, because there's going to be production hell even on the best projects. There's going to be some kind of production hell going on that the audience never knows about. Sometimes when you learn what the obstacles were, it helps you enjoy or even understand the film a little bit better. So in my opinion, it's like,
I think it's interesting, like, what people don't know is actually how many things go wrong on film sets. It's just constant, and it's everything from a light problem, a sound issue, something with the actor. There's so many moving parts that it's a miracle when it actually gets made, because there's so many little things that can go wrong.
And your first edit generally is going to be horrible. You're going to hate it. Everybody's going to hate it. But that's just, you're just putting gesso on the canvas to start painting at that point. There's a lot of tightening up that needs to happen.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't trust the tightening up. That's the problem with the modern way of filming. When you suddenly have these 2, 3, 4 hour films, it's like, if it's an epic film, I get it. If it's just an action film going 2.5 hours, I think 90 minutes in the 80s was better, because you could get through the story and you were on everything that was important. You weren't getting sidelined a whole bunch. And I'm not trying to make a general statement that should always be this way, but I feel like sometimes there's too much overindulgence in the audience. I think it was, a saying back during the theater days, that your production has to keep in mind the endurance of the human bladder. So.
Right. Well, they used to have intermissions too.
Yeah.
Back in the day, yeah. But
well, they used to have to change reels and stuff too, and for films. So there used to sometimes be a little bit of wait in between stuff.
Yeah, especially the size of drinks they give you now at the theater.
It's like.
But well, first of all, before you got into the film and TV side of things, so what was your first initial jump into the stunt world, and I guess why did you go that direction, you think?
I didn't really think about stunts growing up. I was always doing them, I guess, because I was always, jumping out of trees.
Right.
And,
Well, was there a time that something clicked and you said, I want to be a stuntman?
Not in that way. What happened was I always loved performing.
Mm-hmm.
I was slightly shy, but moving around so much, you had to build a part of you that was outgoing enough to meet people, or else
Right.
you're just sitting in your own yard all the time doing this,
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to create this, a little bit of a persona and then live up to it, where you can go out and be comfortable with being friends, friendly with people. Some people are more natural with that. I was a little more reserved.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to kind of push myself, and sometimes you still do, especially when you don't feel like it. And I don't want to feel like going out and talking to everybody, but you talk to that first person and it's over, you're like, oh, this is great.
Right.
Human beings are cool, so
Yeah,
do I have to
that.
like all of them? No.
Mm-hmm.
Can I appreciate their human beings? Of course. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, my mom was also a writer, and
Really?
she
Oh.
wrote, some educational type stuff, but also poetry and some stories.
Cool.
She has
Wow.
filing cabinets full of stuff that she's written. Just it's easier to be a writer than to be published.
Yeah.
She wrote a Indian. She half wrote a cookbook for Indian food. One of
Wow.
one of the family friends. He was from Calcutta and
Oh,
had a lot of family recipes and stuff like that.
I love Indian food.
And also another friend was an artist, and especially with pen and ink line art. So
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of illustrations for that, and it looked like it was going to do pretty well. But whenever they got the books here, that's when there was a dock strike. It was we were living in Houston, Texas at the time, and but there was a dock strike. It was in New Orleans actually, because that's where the shipment was coming from.
What kind of strike did you say?
It was a dock strike, dock workers strike.
Oh, dock.
Yeah, longshore. I guess longshoremen, whatever the dock workers.
At first,
were.
I thought you said dog strike.
Yeah, dog strike. That sounds
Those
rough.
damn dogs.
They're not catting around. But and so they had all these orders for the cookbook, which was named "Not Everything We Eat Is Curry." And so it was, it had a little funny title, and it was interesting. It had tons of. She tried all of the recipes on us, so we were almost like kids from India for a while on as far as our diet was concerned. But it was and she had some bookstores, and they did some interviews, just local around Houston and stuff that were interested. But the longshoreman strike, or the dock workers strike, locked everything onto the ships, and then couldn't get anything. All the orders got canceled because it was like months and months and months and stuff like that. So
that's a bummer. Yeah.
But she has a few things published. But anyway, the whole reason I was saying that is that we also were exposed to the arts a lot. Dramatic readings and poetry and things like that. And there's a theater in downtown Houston called the Alley Theater, and they had an outreach program for kids. And so my brother and I both went and took all those acting classes, and
Wow,
we
cool.
would perform. They'd have performances, kid performances on Saturday afternoons and stuff. And
That's cool.
you get crowds in and you get used to it. And it all Alley Theater's huge. It looks kind of like a modern castle or something. And if no one has been there, then that's what it looked like to me anyway. Of course, I was a kid, but so it got and they had black box theaters, small intimate theaters. They had obviously the proscenium arch, thrust arch.
So
stage.
that you kind of got bit by the bug, I guess, a little bit there, maybe.
Yeah, and we did and did some musicals and some plays and things like that, and comedies. And I was always gifted at being the pratfall guy and stuff like this, but I didn't know I was doing stunts, and then martial arts. And later on, high school, small town, small school, but we did have like class plays, and I did some of those. And then in college, obviously, I was in the theater all the time.
Right.
But creating a character, you can boil it. I like what they call the British method, but you generally break the character building into three parts. Who am I? What do I want? How do I feel? Who am I? Character history. What do I want? Character motivation. How do I feel? Character emotion.
That's good.
So
I like that. Very simple too.
Yeah, it's easy to remember, easy to break it down. You just look at trends. What's the script doing? What's the character development? Do you have to do what you've seen done? No. That's the whole thing about a creative business.
Right.
But can you make bad decisions? Yes.
Right.
That's what the audience is for. Tell you whenever you're not hitting it right, hitting on all
right.
cylinders. But anyway, so I use that a lot, but that also gets you good. Anytime you're doing stage, you have to audition a lot. Anytime you're an actor, you have to audition a lot generally, unless you already or a known actor, and then people are coming to you. But you know, so you get comfortable doing auditions. And when I graduated, that's when they were opening Universal Studios Florida. They just opened it the summer before, and they were just opening. They're getting ready to open the Wild West Stunt Show there.
Okay.
And they had a callback audition in Dallas, and I just found out about this.
Dallas?
Yeah, down in Dallas. Because they had a nationwide audition process. Vegas, Dallas, I don't know how many other places.
So you would have to go all the way to Dallas to audition?
Yeah, down in Dallas to audition. And I found out about it. I went down there. I wasn't on the list for the callback, but I went down anyway. You know, sometimes you think, you know, it's if you don't ask, then the answer's always no. So,
right.
So I went down there and auditioned, and they wanted to take me down to help open the show, so I was one of the opening cast for that. I mean, we were down there before there was even there wasn't a place to rehearse. We rehearsed. Artie Malesh, he was a stunt coordinator in Florida. He was the coordinator. He's one of the overseer coordinators. John Zimmerman was the stunt coordinator for the show. But Artie, you know, we were training out on a scaffolding out at one of Artie's ranches that he had down close to Orlando. So then once the set was finally built, then we went there, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And I was the Felix character, which is kind of like the Barney Fife / Bugs Bunny kind of character. So.
The comic relief.
Comic relief, and the one that got beat up by everybody. So it's like, but that was a stunt show. So then I started going, oh, stunts. Yeah, I see. Yeah, but you're still basically an actor doing stunts because you're performing stage. So something I was very comfortable with.
You got to learn
learn. But you know, stage fighting is stage fighting. Once you do it a million times, it becomes second nature on how to play to audiences and stuff like that. Right. So some of the stuff they teach you in theater, stage combat is good for stage, but it isn't good for camera. You know, those are things. It's just like acting. Acting for camera is a lot different from acting for stage. Right. So,
well, we have that in common because I did the Wild West Stunt Show at Universal in Japan.
Oh, nice.
And I did the Wild West Stunt Show for Universal in L.A.
Oh, nice.
And then I don't know if you know there was a Viking stunt show that was in Japan.
Yes, you took some guys from Orlando as well for that show. To
work that show, right? Yeah. A lot of guys came over from Orlando for that show. But that was all based on the Wild West Stunt Show. Same gags, same basic.
Well, wasn't John Zimmerman involved in that? I think he was the same stunt coordinator.
So he did come over to Japan for Wild West Stunt Show to coordinate.
I thought he was involved with setting up some of the gags.
He might have been involved in setting up because when I got there, it had already been going for a couple.
Oh, okay, yeah. When they were opening, a lot of the guys in Orlando at the time, the known bigger stunt shows was ours, the Wild West Stunt Show.
Wild West Stunt Show.
Yeah, stunt show at Universal Studios and then the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, which everyone just calls Epic Stunt Spectacular. So everybody just calls it Epic. Yeah. In Disney, which is still going on to this day, which is
Isn't
amazing.
That crazy?
Yeah,
that's
an amazing show, amazing people, amazingly hot on all that cement in the middle of the summer in Florida.
Right. Yeah. Well, Waterworld, it's been going since '95.
Yeah, Waterworld. That used to be the
Miami Vice
show, and then they adapted it into Waterworld, which I think is better than, well, maybe not better than the film, but it's a good synopsis of the film. Yeah. I believe, without getting into for a theme park crowd, stage
movie,
crowd,
but it made a great live show.
Well, if you watch the movie really isn't, in my opinion. The movie really tells a pretty complicated story.
Yeah,
and
I was up until the end. I think is when it started losing me, like with some of the stuff that.
It set up so much. It had to have some kind of payoff, and the problem is the payoff at the very end. I guess I won't do spoilers for a movie that's been out for 30 years. But it was a little bit of a wah wah, kind of thing. So, but I don't know. I still liked it. I thought it was interesting. I thought the land sickness was interesting, even though that was part of that spoiler. But Dennis Hopper. You don't get a better bad guy than Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, he is awesome.
I love the guy inside the oil tanker. He was my favorite. Yeah, because when the fire comes on, he's like, "Oh, thank God!
Oh, thank God!" That was a great line. Yeah, that would be That would be an interesting movie to kind of remake and see how. But I don't know. I mean,
It
when they
depends.
made
Is it lightning in the bottle? I'm wondering that with, because Chad Stahelski's remaking Highlander, first Highlander.
oh, is he?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Henry Cavill, I think, is going to be the lead in that. And I'm just wondering, because it's going to look great. I'm just wondering what it's, how the script is and how. And Henry's fantastic. He's such a everything I've heard about him from everyone who works with him. He's a very giving actor. Plus, he's really one of the most hardworking actors you're going to meet. So, I'm not looking at it. I'm not looking at it not being good, but it's just hard to, because even the sequels and the TV series, Highlander didn't live up to the first Highlander, not the way it was presented. And
I don't
stuff.
think it did either.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how it's going to hit me, because I really loved Highlander when it came out.
Yeah, me too.
It was fantastic. Just different. And Christopher Lambert, I've worked with him in Bucharest on a film in '98, a Beowulf type film.
Oh, cool.
But and he was real nice, easygoing. Dave, how are you? He'd say hello to you when he first got on set. He'd say hello to everybody on set.
Oh, really? Wow.
Dave, how are you? Hey, Duke, how are you? Hey, Jaws, how are you?
That's cool.
Hope you're having a good day. Hey, can I talk to you later? I'm talking to my mom on the phone. But he was really nice. But he didn't even speak very much English when he got the role when he was cast as Connor McLeod.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
A Scotsman. Yeah, he's French. So he was playing a Scotsman, and then the Scotsman was playing an Egyptian who was masquerading as a Spaniard,
Wow.
It's just funny. All the backstories on
All the
that film.
backstories, yeah.
But we'll see how that film does. But the same thing, other films that could be, could you remake Waterworld? Could you remake? Of course, Zemeckis won't allow it at this point. Could you remake Back to the Future? And what would it look like?
Man, I don't think I could go for that one.
Well, that's just it. You try to wrap your head around how do you
so
remake it,
attached
because
to
it's an alchemy, right?
Those characters.
Yeah, you have an alchemy.
Yeah.
This is a perfect blend.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he shot
To try to get
almost
somebody
half of the
else
film with a different lead actor, Eric Stoltz, who's a fantastic actor, but just wasn't right for
that
that
was
role.
right for yeah, because they shot a lot of the movie with him before they brought in Michael J.
They shot
Fox,
up
right?
to where they were going to have to change the downtown square to modern day, I think.
Wow.
So that was the point that Zemeckis said he had to make the tough decision. He knew it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the conversation with Eric, and he has never released the footage of Eric. But since they had the reverse on a lot of reverses on the back of Eric, he still kind of, or close
They
up.
could still use those over the shoulder.
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah. They didn't have to refilm entirety of every scene. They would.
And then they had to recast the lead lady too, because she was too tall with Michael J. Fox, right? So his girlfriend was recast, I believe, if I remember right.
Maybe I don't remember that part. Eric Stoltz does. He's a very good actor. I always think of him as being intense. His intensity.
Yeah, great actor, but totally different than the way Michael J. Fox plays it, apparently.
Yeah, timing wise, especially Michael J. Fox just has a certain, he had a certain gift for that comedic, serious timing.
Yes, he did.
So just for it to hit right, and he played opposite of Doc Brown very well.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So yeah,
Can I ramble anymore? Yes. Of course.
Well, real quick, did you do any other live shows?
Yeah, I opened the Sinbad show when they opened
Sinbad.
up a new park next to as part of Universal Studios, but it was called Islands of Adventure.
Yeah.
So they had actually I was the very first Sinbad ever, because that was all just a parking lot, just tarmac for forever. And like a year before they started breaking ground over there, again they built a scaffolding, and they had a script, and they wanted me to be Sinbad for that mock-up show.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun, opening that show as well, and then also did a second opening for a dinner theater there, Pirates Dinner Adventure in Orlando in 2016.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean 2016. 2016 is when it opened in Buena Park, California. But that was in '95, I think. It was right after I got back from Lithuania with the Robin Hood show that we were filming there. But it was a lot of fun, sword fighting, singing. I had five songs to sing. We had a bunch of circus type acts, Cirque du Soleil, sort of, if you're talking about the grade school level.
It was actually a very entertaining show. I worked the one, of course,
Yeah.
in Buena Park for a little while. And I would say that, like, as far as shows go, it's one of the more entertaining ones as an audience member to watch.
Yeah, because you
think.
have a lot more interaction. I think that's the
Yeah.
nice thing about the Pirate Dinner Adventure in Orlando and in Buena Park is the interaction. Now, those are two totally different venues, even though they still have pirate ships in them. But the one in Orlando, I don't know if you've been to that one,
I
but
haven't.
it's cement with a dome tent. But it's if you get used to the one in Buena Park, it's huge. There's a lot more room. The stadium is like this, whereas in Buena Park, it's more like a
Interesting.
coliseum like this. Like going to a
steeper seats that go.
NFL game or something, and it seats fewer people at Buena Park, slightly fewer people. And so when you're talking to everybody and playing to everybody in Orlando, it's a lot. You have to be a lot more full, even though it's mic'd. Everybody's mic'd.
Yeah.
But
I never thought that I would ever sing in public on stage, and that show actually.
And not have them get up and leave.
What's that?
And not have them get up and
have them get up and leave. Yeah. Of course, my character didn't have any solos, thank God, but yeah, I still had to sing and do a little dance number a little bit too. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
It's just fun, It was almost like a Peter Pan type, musical fun comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
That kind of thing with some real
and in the crowd interaction.
Yeah, crowd interaction, getting them up when they just want to be sitting down in the air conditioning and telling their kids to watch the show and eat their vegetables and stuff like that. But it's fun, and the kids afterwards. It's always the kids. In every show I've done that's especially been tourist oriented, the kids are the ones that are just they just pull your heart out because it's like they come up to you, can you sign this?
Yeah.
You were my favorite. Because kids they'll choose their favorite, and it may not be their pirate because the pirates are colors and then the sections are colors.
Right.
So if you're yellow pirate, you have your yellow section. But the yellow pirate, the hero when I was doing the show was always blue. So I'd have some kids from yellow or red, whatever, and come over, and you were my favorite. Cause that's the reason I tell, just like you learn in any basic stage theater class or theater production is always stay in character because you never know who's watching you. But the kids, they'll watch who they like all the time, not even watching anything else.
Right.
So you
Good point.
definitely had to, because some of the guys that you get, and ladies, they were just stunt people mainly and not realizing that, well, theater, you're never off camera,
Exactly.
unless you're off stage.
You're always on.
Yeah.
And you got to keep that energy up the whole time.
Yeah, energy and just keep the characterization up and have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah. So the WMCA
WMAC.
W
MAC Masters.
MACA. Was that your first TV film?
That was the first TV episodic
Episodic. Okay.
that I worked as a stunt person on.
Okay.
And also, they gave me the character that I played in the very first one. Actually, was supposed to be a Japanese person.
You were supposed to be a Japanese person?
The character was.
Oh, really?
But they...
How did they...
Well, they actually took a couple of lines out because of that, because it would have looked real, racial if a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy said that. So they took a couple of lines away from it. But because the whole song, he was the antithesis to the hero of that episode. The one, they're like little morality plays. Each episode's teaching a little morality play, almost, almost like a cartoon. Some cartoons do.
Yeah.
So that episode was about Ho Sung, and then his brother Ho Young, and they're both, Korean, and so they realized. I think they realized at some point that they didn't want to have Japanese and Korean, conflict as far as racial because of the whole problem during World War II. I wouldn't say problem, just the way that they didn't want to have that on the screen. So I totally understand that direction, and they also didn't want to have white guy versus Korean either. So we just tried to keep it more about attitude and mess with me, you mess with my guys, that kind of thing, versus anything. We didn't want to have that kind of subtext.
Taken as racial or national.
Yeah,
or
the whole
anything like
show
that.
didn't need a subtext. That first season, I don't remember her doing it. First season, Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, was like the guest host.
Oh, really?
I think she did most of her stuff just in the studio. She came out with I think the pilot, or was she there for some of the first season too? It's hard to remember now, but she was really nice. She's a really nice person. But it was.
Was she older than Brandon or younger? I don't remember.
She was the youngest. Yeah, she was the youngest.
Younger than Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon was older. Yeah.
Okay.
She had a little bit of martial arts training that she got was mainly from like Dan and Osanto, Bruce Lee's best friend, some other students of her father, but because she was a little young for him to be teaching whenever he finally passed.
Right.
But he had taught Brandon, but Brandon then, from what I understand, just reading different books and stuff about Bruce and his family and his kids and stuff, he just kind of went away from the martial arts after his dad died, just because it was a little painful. That's something that they did, so which is understandable. I
Totally.
can understand that totally.
Yeah, totally. Did the martial arts, once you started getting into the fight choreography, how did you have to change the martial art or the fighting to adapt for to work on camera, basically?
Yeah, that's always the rub, isn't it? I remember on Mortal Kombat Conquest, that was the one season of Mortal Kombat that actually John was stunt coordinating and second unit directing, but he pulled a lot of martial artists off of the tournament circuit. Gary Stearns and John Valera, and just a lot of those really talented, super talented martial artists.
Right.
And even on WMAC, we saw the same thing, and I still see it depending on the person, actors or whatever, or even stunt people. It has to click on what the differences are between a martial art, fighting, and camera. Camera, you're playing to camera. Camera has one eye, so it has no depth of field. I usually tell people, especially actors, but stunt people too, pretend if you're having trouble making a cell, which is hitting the mic, if you have trouble making a cell, which is making it look like somebody actually got hit, then just put mentally, if the camera stays over your shoulder, mentally put a string from the middle of the lens to wherever you're striking, but you need to be at least a foot away from them so you don't actually hit them, and then punch through and break that string.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's a simple way.
I remember learning that from you years ago, and I was like, man, that is just the simplest way to make sure a thing is going to read as a hit. It's just so
And what does it require?
Visual.
It requires them to think about it a little bit,
right,
and adapt. Because I can tell them where to punch 30 times, if they're not engaging their brain, it isn't going to work. Same thing with the actor. It's also that's one of the main problems: misses and stacking. Right. So stacking is whenever, say, here's the stunt person, here's the actor, and the actor's facing the stunt person. So, and the camera's there. So stacking is when the stunt person or the actor moves over, and now the stunt person or whoever's here, could be another actor, is blocking the actor. So we got to figure out, we don't want them here. I'm going to fight you. Okay. We miss. But we do want them to be seen. So I always think, well, what's the simplest way to describe something or say something? Doesn't require a lot of words, but somebody's going to understand right away. So I just say, hey, right collarbone to right collarbone, or left collarbone to left collarbone. That way they can line up so they feel like they're. Let me keep hitting the mic. Sorry. They can line up so they feel like they're in front of that they're lined up, but they're just off enough so that they're not stacked, and they're on the correct side of the frame. Because you're either going to be on the right side of the frame or the left side of the frame as the camera's looking at you, and you have to know how to fix that. So the camera's here, and you're on the right side of the frame, and then goes the other side. Now I need to be on the left side of the frame, so we need to swap from right collarbone to right collarbone to left collarbone to left collarbone. So, and those are easy. Or if they do something called a French turn, which means the cameras will move the other side of the person, but then the people have to switch. Well, that's where things can totally get derailed. But clear it up. Okay, this is still the left collarbone. Oh, okay, easy. Right. So and that's why I usually. Because usually if you, when you do an evaluation for your actors, you want to know, one, how they move, two, if they have any limitations, if they have any injuries or conditions, if they have any phobias, because that's the productions never think about that. Oh, we'll just have the actress. We'll drive the car up, and then we'll put the actress. We'll put the actress in the trunk real quick and close the lid, and then the actor will get out of the car. We'll just out on the roll, and then the actor will get out, come over, and open up the trunk, and there she is. And I'm like, is she willing to do that? Well, what do you mean? Well, have you ever heard of claustrophobia? Some people can't do that. Oh, well, gosh, you never thought about that before. Yeah, I guess she doesn't. Well, we'll ask her. And then so then I go up, I give them a few days. I did. Has anyone talked to you about the trunk thing? What trunk thing? Well, they're talking about on scene coming up next week for a scene, whatever, that the car will pull in with nobody in the trunk, but then on the roll, they'll pop the lid, you get in the trunk, they close the lid. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I cannot get in that tight of a space. I just cannot physically do that. And stuff. I'm like, okay. So then you go and you talk to the producers and the director. Hey, she's got bad claustrophobia. Or if they assume they can drive. If it's an actor from New York, 9 times out of 10, they probably don't. They may be able to drive.
Right.
But they just don't drive, and they're not comfortable with it because they don't drive a lot in New York. So, or are they afraid of water?
Water's a good one.
Yeah. Are they afraid of heights? Well, just be on this ladder, putting this ornament on the top of the tree, of the Christmas tree. Well, is she okay with that? Well, what do you mean? I do it every Christmas. Well, she's not you.
Yeah.
So, or
they just don't
have him put his hand in this coffin full of grub worms. It's like, will he do that? Well, what do you mean?
Yeah. I've been dreading being on set and them saying something to the effect of, we need you to go hold that tarantula, or be next to that tarantula or something. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do it, man.
That's the whole thing, is you have to think about those things. And it seems like, well, maybe it's good for me to think that way, but I'm the one that thinks about them. I'm like, well, that's not a stunt. No, it's not a stunt, but they may not do it. Yeah. And an actor does not have to do something they don't want to do, nor should anyone pressure them to try to do something they don't want to do, because you're just asking for a problem,
Right.
People can really freak out if they're in a trunk. Let's say for some reason the trunk suddenly doesn't open, and now she's in there freaking out. It's getting hot.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Or if they just, and everybody will say they can do stuff to get the job, but then once they're there, it's like, oh, this guy says he's a boxer. I'm like, oh, okay. And the first time I heard that when I was coming up through the ranks, training actors and stuff for fights, for camera.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's a black belt. Oh, good, this will be easy. And then black belt in what? Doesn't know anything.
No, I have a black belt at home. I wear it with my black pants.
Canvas, Sears and Roebuck. Ha ha ha. It's like, what? So that's the reason you have to check everything and ask questions that have nothing to do with with what's going on. He's gonna run up this hill. Well, how many times is he gonna have to do it? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe we should have a stunt double there for the shots we don't see his face.
Right. It's interesting. That just was an issue last week. I was working in North Carolina doing a scene where I'm the bad guy on horseback chasing down a runaway slave, and it was a fairly long, run basically, and they had the actor doing his own running. And after I think it was on the third take, his hamstring went.
Yeah.
Boom. And I'm like, that they don't think about that. Those actors aren't running 100-yard dashes every day.
Also, what was coming up? Here's the big thing. A lot of people don't think about. Is there going to be a shirtless scene or a body scene or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, that means they're dehydrating.
Yeah.
Let's say 2 days later. So they're dehydrating so they look good on camera, because the camera, isn't friendly to anybody, even people in shape. You have to get ready for that stuff. So they shouldn't have scheduled, I'm not saying this is what happened on that, example that you said, but, you got to look at that stuff. I'll go and talk to the first AD sometimes. Hey, you have the running scene, but 2 days later he's doing the training with the shirt off. Is he going to be dehydrating or anything to get to that? And they're always like, oh, good catch.
Yeah.
I will move that. Yeah, because they physically have to do one or the other. You know, you're going to hydrate so you can do the running scene without pulling any muscles. Or you're going to be able to, you know, and how many takes you're going to do. It's like, it's the funniest thing. It's like asking, so say an actor's going to have to kneel down or drop to their knees in a scene. So, and they're a younger actor that hasn't, or less experienced actor for camera or whatever, and you walk up, I always have some strap on, soft or hard knee pads, depending on what's going on, that I can just pull up their pant leg and strap it on.
Right.
But, you know, so, hey, would you like some knee pads for this? Nah, man, this is fine. I'm just going down on my knee.
Have you ever had an actor actually
that's take one.
Yeah, take one.
That's take one.
Yeah.
Right after they say cut, who's walking over to me? Hey, you got those knee pads?
Those knee pads. Yeah,
They forget. Oh, I'm doing 30 takes of this. You know, it's not like just
knee pads
one.
have saved me on set more times than I can count, and it's not because I'm falling or hitting the ground. It's because I have to be kneeling down doing something in the scene, and I'm like, man, without these knee pads, like you said, after the third
Kneeling
take,
down, I have high density foam that I can cut, or I can ask costumes, or I have some in my bag for some moleskin or something if they have to have their head on the asphalt when the sun's blazing down and it's 100 degrees. Well, they're going to burn their face, you know. Or I have a, you know, like a little pad that we can put there or something. I mean, it's like you just have to think about these things because is that the stunt person's job, stunt coordinator's job? Well, it is to try to keep the actors safe, but that's not a stunt. But yeah, I want to keep them safe, and I want them to, you know. And then that's when they really start trusting you. Like, oh, this person's really watching out for me. I remember when I first started fight coordinating, you know, some of the coordinators I worked for would say, well, you don't have to read the script, just put together a fight that you know that's the way you want to have it happen. And I'm like, okay, but I always read the script.
Yeah.
I guess I'm too much of an actor for, I'm not calling myself an actor, just too much actor in me to not want to know what's going on. But you know, but because you need to know what's going on, because you're telling, you're basically writing part of the script when you create fight choreography, or you're designing how stunts are going to go.
Right.
So, but that comes in handy when I was the stunt fight coordinator on Walking Tall with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The very first fight that we were going to rehearse with him, and Neil McDonough was his buddy from before he left town, who's now the mogul that kind of pushes everybody around in the town. So the end fight between them, you know, is at the bottom of this hill that they rolled down, and Neil McDonough's character's got an axe that he pulled out of a firebox or something. Anyway, but that's the first time I'm meeting Dwayne. I didn't get to meet him before that. You know, we filmed the stunt team rehearsing it so they could get it approved. That was an MGM film, and Kevin Bray was the director on it. But anyway, so it got approved. That fight got approved. They were going to shoot it soon. They needed Dwayne and Neil to rehearse, and they're both real physical. So I was just going to rehearse everything, and then we put them in when we're seeing faces and stuff, and just like we always do. And that the first 10 minutes of that rehearsal was me saying, now Dwayne, you're going to do this first. You're going to step and fall down. Why am I doing that? Well, because earlier in the sawmill, you fell and you hurt your knee, and you just popped, before that big hill, you popped it back, and it came out of place. You popped it into place where the tree stump was. He said, oh yeah. And I said, and then you're going to dodge, and Neil, you're going to do. Well, why is he doing that? Well, because he's swinging at you, but you're former special forces, and so you're trying to set up a strategy to try to. He's got a sharp-bladed, heavy weapon, and you're going, oh, I see, okay. And he did that like 10 or 12 questions, that. Stopped me every time. But after that, I think he was just wanting to know I was invested in the story.
In the story.
Yeah, in the characters in the story.
Yeah.
Because he was always asking questions that had something to do with earlier in the script, or even some kind of character question or something, which I liked. I'm not saying I didn't. I liked that about him. But after that, he never asked me another question. He's always like, hey, Big D. I'm like, Big D?
Big D.
Don't choreograph anything for my left arm. It's stupid. And I'm like, Dwayne, every punch can't be a right punch. Well, you know what I'm saying. It's like,
That's funny. Huh.
But it's interesting because it's like, and also in that same film, the scene where he comes back into the casino and busts the place up, there's another actor who's also good with action, Kevin Durand, that's going to be the last guy. He was like Neil's right-hand man in Neil McDonough's character's right-hand man. at the casino. He comes out and he has a shotgun, and so I just had this little disarm, knock him down, kick him,
Right.
But Kevin Bray, we get to that point, and we didn't even bring in, Dwayne's stunt double. We didn't have Kevin double because he was like, no, I'm comfortable with that. I'll go to I'll have, you'll have pads for me, or I'll go to a pad. I'm like, yeah, definitely will protect you. And Kevin Bray was like, I think I want 30 seconds more fight right here. I'm like, okay. So, and the first AD comes over, and the stunt coordinator comes over, and they're like, 30 seconds, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot. I think we can do it, though.
30 seconds is a lot, man.
It's a lot on camera. It's a lot to shoot.
It is.
It's a lot to just on the spot come up with.
Right.
But, so I got them together, and the first AD, first AD is like the sergeant major of the set. He's the one that tries to keep the production on time. He's the one that's responsible for safety everywhere on the set, not just with human beings, which is what stunt coordinator's responsible for. I mean, human beings on camera, but it's everybody's job to be safe on set. But anyway, he comes up and he's like, well, we have to reset the lighting over here, so you got about half an hour. Let me know. Once the lighting's done, I'll let you know, and you can let me know how much more longer you might need for that. And we were filming up in Vancouver at the time. But so I got with Dwayne and I got with Kevin. We worked out, and it was flowing really well because they knew each other's characters pretty well, and they knew themselves really well. Yeah. And Dwayne was like, hey, can I do this nip up? I'm like, nip up? He's like, yeah, I'm on my back, and I pop up to my feet. I said, oh, you mean a kip up? He's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, kip up? He's like, kip up? I'm like, yeah, that's what it's called in gymnastics. He's like, well, in wrestling we call it a nip up. I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, yeah, you can do that, definitely. And I have a perfect spot for it, and we'll do it, boom, right there. It's a kip up.
Guy his size, man.
Yeah, and that'll be the kip up. And he's like, okay, perfect. I want to do that on camera for years. I'm like, okay. And he was very serious. That was before he created his acting persona. He'd already had this wrestling persona. And he always had his acting coach, on set, to work with whenever, in between takes and stuff. He's just really serious about wanting to do well. And I thought he was doing great. But anyway, so they got the lighting set, and we had just gotten everything rehearsed and stuff. And then the first AD comes over, well, the lighting's done. I said, good, we're ready. He went, all right, well, quicker next time. So we had it ready for the light when the lights got there. And the stunt coordinator came up and said, well, I'm glad you're here because it takes me like 2 or 3 weeks to think of that stuff. But we filmed it, and it worked out great.
Nice.
Kevin did a couple of shots I felt maybe should have been covered a little bit better, just because of the camera's always moving, but moving across them, so it's hard to make sure that all the hits were in the right spots.
Right. Yeah,
Not that the shots weren't good. The shots were very interesting.
Yeah.
And they helped with the story. But the funny thing about that part of the fight was, I think like 2 or 3 of the moves from that extra 30 seconds made the trailer.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dwayne's kip up and all that stuff was in the trailer. It was really fun. It was really interesting to watch. And so, cool. But yeah, I mean, you just gotta.
I can watch that. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, and I feel like it matched the energy of him. I think Kevin just wanted more physicality than just bam, bam, bam. Like hitting a nail with a hammer. Right. He wanted a little more phicality right at the end, which, I mean, to me makes sense. I wish he thought about that earlier. It would have been better to be prepared for that. Yeah. But so like we were just talking about, stuff comes up, you handle it, and you do what you can. So sometimes it works.
Sometimes it works. Well, if you got somebody on set that has some experience and some creativity, if somebody else on set, it might not have gone quite as smoothly. But
maybe, I'm not crediting that with me, because obviously Kevin and Dwayne, they both had parts in it, and just just the whole production, I felt like was pulling together really well on that production. Dwayne was a practical joker. He pulled a lot of practical jokes on people, especially the other actors and stuff. Yeah, this one actor had to hit him with the butt of a gun, and Dwayne had a blood capsule that he put in his mouth and like that, and he's like, son of a whatever, and he's bleeding, and he's staring at this guy, and the guy's like, I didn't touch him, and we're at Video Village, and everybody at Video Village goes, he hit Dwayne, and they get up and they run over there, are you okay? Oh no, and I'm like, and I was watching him on, and I'm like, there's no way he hit him. And so everybody's over there making a big hubbub. That guy's going, I didn't touch him, please don't kill me, because he's a shorter guy. Right. And Dwayne's staring at him and stuff. And I walk up to Dwayne. He walks away just a little bit. I guess he wanted to give a little space before he's going to let the joke in or something. But he walks away, and I'm like, Dwayne. And he goes, All right. He's like, I got him on a hook.
I got him on the hook. That's
Like,
funny.
okay. It was fun
That's a
though. I
good
mean,
one.
he was a lot of fun to work with on that
That's
production.
cool.
Neil McDonough was too. He was very physical.
Neil McDonald?
Neil McDonough, yeah, he was.
McDonough, okay.
Yeah, we see him. You see him in a lot of stuff. He's always, he's got the blonde hair and the really steely blue eyes. He plays a lot of good guys and bad guys.
I think I just saw him in something.
He works a
Recently.
lot. Yeah, he works a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because he's a lot bigger than you think he is. Like if it's the guy I'm
physically
thinking he
he's
is.
not like imposing, but he's definitely in shape and he's definitely intent. He has an intensity about him.
Yeah.
You know, even when he's friendly, he has an intensity about him. So.
Was he in the? If it's who I'm thinking he is, did you see the last? Well, you worked on it, the late Naked Gun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Was he
I don't know. I only worked one scene. He wasn't in the scene that I worked
Oh,
on.
he
I
wasn't.
worked
Okay.
with Liam and with gosh, I can't remember the other gentleman's name. The guy kind of like was a Chris Farley comedian actor kind of guy. He was.
Oh yeah, he was in the Cobra Kai series. I
Oh
believe.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was. You know, they both were great. You know, Liam.
Yeah,
Well,
he's really
Liam's
funny.
been in
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
just let him do what he wants to do, and
Okay.
then.
I think he's the guy that is supposed to like take out Liam Neeson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if it's the guy I'm thinking he is, I'll have to look that up. But going on, well, we kind of already have been going there.
Sure.
But onto the kind of the philosophical side of things. Do you think there's something like in your personality that drew you to stunts that made you want to become a stunt person or coordinator?
When people ask me, how do you get into stunts? I generally say, well, usually it's one of two things. You either are born into it or you fall into it,
Yeah.
because you either are from a stunt family that
Yeah.
generally is going to, you don't always have to, but
Mhm.
generally you're going to want to follow the same footsteps.
Right.
Or the most common thing that I've noticed that happened to me as well, obviously doing the stunt shows live is
Mhm.
one thing, but you meet other stunt people, you start training with them, you
Mhm.
start, you get your headshot and your resume together, you start sending it out, start hustling stunt coordinators, that,
Right.
the coordinators that don't mind that,
Mhm.
and sending out emails and things like that, and you start walking that road,
Mhm.
and so I feel that. And you have decisions to make. Some
Mhm.
people, they look at stunts because they want to do something else.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with having a goal.
Mhm.
If stunts isn't the end point of your goal, stunts, fight coordinating, stunt coordinating, second unit directing, anything like that. If your goal is to produce, write, produce, act, direct, whatever, you need to also be walking those roads, because those roads have their own issues as well. And the stunt path isn't necessarily going to get you recognition on those issues, if you know what I mean. So,
Totally.
and what I have noticed also is that when you're on a set, whatever the production is, generally people are going to view you as the clothes you showed up in. So,
True.
you notice it a lot on, especially episodics, because let's say you're on a long run. Let's say, like my buddy John Medlin, he coordinated the last 3 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, you have, back in those days, it was like 26 episodes per season.
Yeah, they
and
were
so
long.
it's not all the episodes are spoken for by the directors. So, okay, we're going to give the script supervisor, this person will direct episode 16. One of the producers, they just got the DGA card on something else. They're going to direct episode 18. The DP, the director of photography, the cinematographer will direct. He's going to direct episode. But that's the problem. Just saying those things is the problem, because it's like, let's say stunt coordinator is going to direct, episode 21. But it's always that. It's like, well, hey, first AD's directing the next episode. Hey, script supervisor directing the next episode. Well, no, if they're directing the next episode, they're the director.
Right.
They're not the first AD. They're not.
They are the director.
Stunt coordinator. They're not. So you're already being identified as the clothes you showed up in, and so and some people, they feel like that's a drag, and I'm like, well, it's natural though.
It is. Yeah.
But the problem is whenever the majority of resume is stunt related, but you're wanting to act, well, it's a very strange dichotomy there, because there are a lot of really good actors who end up in stunts, and they are really good actors. I work with some stunt people. Like, man, you should just be acting. Not because they're not good stunt people; they're great stunt people. But it's just like, but it's weird in television and film, or episodic in film, I guess these days, because if you're an actor who can do their own stunts, you're gold. But if you're a stunt person that says you can act, yeah, right. You know.
I know, man.
And it's difficult. That's a difficult.
I run up against that all the time.
Yeah, because, and it's, but I can understand it. Okay, so because I get asked this a lot in meetings. Hey, we want Thug 1 to be a stunt actor. Do you know? Can you send some guys in to read for it? Do you know anybody that can act? And I'm like, well, that's a very subjective question.
Yeah.
Do I think they can act? Do you think they can act? It just depends. I always send in people that I have had success with landing some roles, and usually it's like a line. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, you don't.
But I got to the point where I started telling them, listen, if you want to cast a stunt person in this, only read stunt people for this first. If you find somebody you like, let's use them. I said, because it's unfair in a lot of ways to read stunt people and actors mixed together. Okay, for one thing, stunt people usually are working or training, not necessarily going to a lot of auditions, so the actors have a little bit of advantage in the audition process. And the other thing is that bias we were just talking about. The director could like the stunt person better. I really like the look, I like the physicality, but what if I need something a little bit different on the day? I better hire the actor because they have the toolbox that I'm using for that.
Right.
So, and that's a logical thing for them to think. There's no reason why they shouldn't. But I'm like, well, you're assuming that if you look at the resume, the stunt person may even have had more acting gigs than the actor.
Yeah.
But because that often happens. But at the same time, I also totally understand. That's like me hiring, because I like to give younger stunt people chances, but I don't usually put them in really hot spots. But you take a little bit of risk whenever you're not 1,000% sure that this is the right person for that job. Obviously, it wouldn't put them in a position that it would be a real dangerous thing.
Right.
But could they just look dumb on camera? Could they act like a jerk at craft services?
Right.
Could they take off the wardrobe lady, the costume department? All that stuff is going to reflect poorly on my decision. So. I understand what the, stunts. It's almost a given. You need to hire the person for the job, not the person and try to get them able to do the job. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless there's a reason for it. There are sometimes extenuating circumstances. Well, this is the person that we have. Let's see if we can make it work. And at that point, that's when you have to put your creativity hat on. Well, then how are we going to make it work? Because you don't want to try to slam the square peg in the round hole. You want to make it so it's something they can do.
Organic, as they kind of like to say.
Exactly. That's something. It's the same thing in choreography. Do I hold on to stuff? Well, the only time I hold on to stuff that's choreographed a certain way is if there's a reason that has to happen this way, because it's setting them up for the wire gag, setting up for the story point, setting up because that's where you are in the set piece or whatever.
Right.
But if, especially the actor has a natural inclination to do something different, well, why would I say no? Because their body's going to want to do it anyway.
Right.
Or a stunt person, hey, listen, I can do this, but I'm much better if I do this. I'm like, okay, well, good, yeah, I'm glad you told me that. Well, maybe let's see. So I have a saying, I'm a big fan of whatever's working.
Yeah, right.
So, because when you design your very first job, when you're designing something away from stories, away from the storytelling, but as a stunt coordinator or a fight coordinator, is you got to look in the future. And I call them X factors. You got to see how many things could go wrong. Is this person got enough camera experience so they can hit the actors? The actor not going to like working with them because they feel, even if they don't hit them, they're going to feel like they're in danger.
Right. Yeah.
Little things like that. Are they a little bit too talkative, which can be a negative thing? Do they never talk, which usually isn't that bad of an idea, but who knows?
Right.
So same thing with wire gags or car driving or fire burns. There's so many variables. It's impossible to look in the future and see every single variable that could go wrong. And unfortunately, it's the one that you didn't see and didn't plan against that ends up biting you in the butt. And you can see it clearly when you're looking back at it, but when you're looking forward at it, it's really opaque and it's hard to see. And those are the ones that always keeping me up and keep me on my toes. I'm always much more happy and relaxed when the stunt's over. Everybody's happy and everybody's healthy. You know? And I always tell the performers beforehand, I'm like, listen, only picture what you want to have happen. Picture that. Put that in your mind. Only what you want to have happen. Put the feeling. Some things you can't. You're not going to have time to think. You're gonna have to react. Put how it felt. Remember those rehearsals. Rehearsals key to having a safe filming day. So remember on the rehearsal day. Remember how the good takes felt. On the rehearsal day. So put that feeling into your body. Put the picture in your head. Shows you doing it fantastically. Relax, breathe, and then we're going to go. Okay. Because if you tell them opposite, listen, don't do this. If that's the last thing you say, that's like skiing down a mountain and you're looking at a tree going, don't hit the tree. Don't hit the tree. What's going to happen? You're going to hit that tree. Right.
It's interesting. It's a balance because, like you're saying, as a coordinator, you have to. It sounds pessimistic, but you have to think about everything that could go wrong, and in some ways, especially nowadays they've got all of this. They call it the secret, where if you think about something, visualize it, and then you manifest it. So you're like, well, if I'm thinking about everything that go wrong, maybe that'll make something go wrong. But you see, you have to plan all of those what ifs scenarios, but you just don't but then you said you just don't focus on them. Don't put that as the thing you vision in your head.
Well, but remember, we're also talking about, you think about those things when you're designing, and you think about those things when you're rehearsing.
Right.
And what's working well is speaking to you the whole time. On the day, you don't. That's the reason when I change stuff on the day, I'm very hesitant. There's only a little bit that I will change. Fight choreography is one thing. I design things in segments of say 5 to 10 moves, and there'd be a natural separation. Somebody punches, somebody staggers. Maybe there's a line he or she is holding the other character or whatever, and there's a line. Those are natural stop points for the choreography, and that's a segment. And so now if the day's going long, you always get told, well, we're going to have 4 hours to shoot that fight. Well, no, they mean the whole scene. And the fight's probably going to be the last thing they shoot. They'll shoot a donut if there's stuff after it. They'll shoot everything up to the fight, shoot everything after the fight. Hey, what's going to be messed up? Knock it over now or whatever. Right. And then, well, what if it doesn't match? Don't worry about it, and then you shoot the fight last. Well, we don't have enough time for it all, but I have 5 segments. I'm like, okay, well, we'll take out segment 4, jam it down a little bit. But since there was already a natural separation, then everybody's cool with it, and you're not going to confuse the stunt performance or the actors in what's going on.
Because I'm sure that happens. I know it happens all the time when I'm on set, but with you, especially as a coordinator, where you've got this whole fight sequence, and then you get down to it, and they're like, we don't have time for all of that. Just how can we,
Yeah, and have in your mind when you choreograph stuff, how you could shorten it, how you could trim it and still keep it exciting. Yeah, which is going to be hard because if every move's a big move, then it's monotone at a high level. It's like if you're an actor, you're screaming all your dialogue. Well, after the second sentence, nobody's really listening. Because it takes away the effect of the scream.
Right.
So you want build in the fight up to the climax, maybe anticlimax, and there you go. So it's just same as the story point, So if they want to take out this part and keep all this stuff, well, that's not. Well, how am I going to
get that?
That's the reason you probably still need to always keep the last bit, because that's. You can still build. Might be a sharp build, but you can still get to a high point in that fight or whatever the choreography is going to be. Build up to the big move or whatever.
Right.
So,
right.
That's my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah. Those are so many things to think to keep in mind as your fight choreographer, that it's not just choreographing a cool looking move or something like that. There's the story to be told, and there's what if on the day we've got to shorten it? Where's a good spot where we can skip that part out and
yeah, definitely. And what's the strategy of the fight? What are the stakes of the fight? What's the strategy of the fight? Strategy is the overall intent, and the tactics are what you use to enact your strategy, you know. So, and one thing that I find pulls me out of a fight scene, especially, is when everybody's fighting exactly the same. Looks like they all trained under the same, you know, teacher,
That's
and
a good
or
point.
went to the same school
Yeah.
or whatever. And I'm like, well, that works if that's what the characters are.
Right.
But but nobody's, and if they all have to be built exactly the same too. You know, if they're going to fight exactly the same. So, you know, because someone tall and lanky is going to fight different from like short and stout. So, I like to, when I'm doing an initial evaluation of the actors, I see how they move. I also see what they like to do. I ask them, what do you like to do movement wise? What have you like? What have you watched fight wise that you like? You know, okay, we'll make you more organic moving, and maybe organic using the environment more. You know, pull into the wall. You know, whatever. And you know, or no, you're power. So we'll have you block power. You know, you're more defensive. You're going to be more active. You know, you make all these decisions. And you design the fight around it. And so when you don't want to mess with it unnecessarily, but you also have to keep in mind, well, if I have to, I definitely can lose this. I definitely can lose that. You know.
Right.
So, and this is after everything's been approved. Generally, I don't like to teach the actors until after the stunt rehearsal, you know, has been approved, after the fight has been approved, because it's, even though on a large production, they may have to learn several versions of a fight, but it's better if the actors only have what they need in their head.
So they don't learn that move, then have to forget about it, but then later they're going back to that move that
What if their reactions are tied into something that they're not doing, you know? So, or if they've forgotten that there's a new move, a new choreography for it, and that freaks them out a little bit. So now they're not looking great on camera. Or if they're making weird faces, you know, if you're uncomfortable with something, you tend to,
right.
you know. I tell an actor, hey, you're saying wow a lot. What do you mean? You're going wow, wow, wow. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize they're doing it. Thanks for telling me. And if I keep doing it, let me know. I'm like, okay, you know, because they don't want to be, you know, making weird faces or saying pow, pow, pow when they're shooting or whatever.
When they're shooting somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they're shooting at high speed and it's all going to be slow motion.
Yeah.
It's like, bang, bang. You know, it's like, wow.
That's funny. If you're on set in it's a stressful situation, it's chaotic. It's you know, maybe it is something like that where it's a pretty big move or stunt coming up, and you haven't had much time to get it set up and ready, and maybe the actor hasn't had a lot of time. So there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of things that you know could go wrong, but you hope it doesn't go wrong. But you're at the point now, and how do you keep in a state of mind where well, basically a clear state of mind, a calm state of mind when things don't go exactly the way they plan, or you're coming up on something that you know has a lot of risk to it, that sort of thing?
Well, that's a very good question, because everyone has a different answer for that question. So,
right.
Me personally, I feel like rushing is rushing to get to an accident, and rushing causes an accident. So what I do personally, the more haywire, the more hair pulling, the sun's coming up, sun's going down, we're losing the light, we're gaining the light, you know, whatever the situation is. It's easy to try to push, and pushing generally pushes you into a bad situation. Doesn't mean that, you know, there's that old saying, you know, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. But I think you can be felicitous on getting things done, but you need to be measured with how you're doing it. You know, you don't need to be speeding up, yelling. Yelling is the worst thing. I hate yelling on a set, especially on stunt days, because yelling just, it's very counterproductive, for one, because usually there's at least one screamer on a set, and people know who it is, and they quit listening to them after a while. They, you know, because screaming is counterproductive after, you know, like we said before, after the second time someone screams, well, they're just a screamer, okay. But you know, if people have tuned out the screaming, and then someone says, "Hey, look out for the screw you," get hit by a truck or something, then that's very negative. That's a safety hazard. Also, I protect my people. You know, let's say first AD or second AD, or someone runs up, starts yelling at some person, "No, you weren't supposed to go. You got to go over here." A camera guy or DP or director, I will get in between them. No, wait a minute. Yep, talk to me. Talk to me, please. You know, what happened, I will handle it, you know, because I don't want somebody, we have people doing stunt work, And, there is no such thing as a small stunt. Any stunt can get you injured.
Mm.
An injury means you're not getting paid for a while or never.
Mm.
You're out of the business or dead, which is something I never want to address.
Mm.
But I don't need them put on pins and needles because they just got yelled at,
Right.
So I want them to be calm, and I want them to be able to perform as well as possible. I will talk to them. I'll pull them aside a little bit because it's embarrassing to get dressed. I mean, it can never happen, but I don't like to dress somebody down in front of everybody, and I don't like to do it in a verbally derisive way if if there's a problem. If one thing I can recognize, well, this is what's going to happen, so let me get them in a place where they're doing what they want, but it's still going to be the same thing just because that's just what it's going to be. Yelling isn't going to change it.
Right.
But I don't want someone else. I've told a few first ADs, listen, I don't yell at you and your people. I don't want you yelling at mine. And they usually go, yeah, you're right. You don't, because it's not my place. Not my place to yell at other people's pieces unless it's a safety issue. Hey, don't move that. That's
Right.
going to explode
Different.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I might yell. But if it's hey, that's set. We can't have anybody messing with it. Whatever. You can. You don't have to belittle anybody. You don't have to treat them like garbage. They're human beings. They're doing their job. Everybody gets task oriented, and there's a lot of ants doing their jobs, and that messes up your job. Well, that's the reason you need to have your ants guarding your stuff. So, I'm always whenever they say break for lunch or something, I've always tried to say we have a big rig coming up after lunch. I ask the key rigging guy, he'll take you. Why don't you stay and send your guys to lunch, or you go and leave a guy here for right now, and then when you're done with lunch, come back, and then that person can go to lunch. Send them early, and then send him whatever.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to show up on a set that we have a big wire gag and we don't know if someone's messed with anything.
Yeah, that's the worst, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like planning, again, that's planning, planning and knowing how you're going to handle stuff. You're going to get yelled at because there are problems.
Mm-hmm.
But just because there are problems doesn't mean it's my problem. But I will shoulder the problem. I don't mind shouldering the problem. Let's say it's a prop issue. Sometimes people just want to make sure someone has said, okay, we understand, sorry. And I'll stand. I've taken the blame for a lot of stuff that's not through my department at all. Oh, I think I said something about that, and that's the reason it's not here. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, well, don't do it next. You move on. At the end of the day, everybody's happy. Hey, we got the stuff. It's great. Whatever.
Yeah.
What does it matter who gets blamed for something? I'm not interested in blame. I'm interested in everybody being safe and getting good stuff on camera.
Yeah.
So I feel like taking a little bit of the ego out of it and being a professional. Whenever you're acting, the more people up on higher parts of the chain are acting professionally, generally it will filter down really well.
Right.
And
that's true.
the more professional I think the set's going to be, and that's really what you want.
Yeah.
Because that's the most efficient. And if it's most efficient, let's just do it. But if it's the first AD, I usually cut them a ton of slack.
They got so much to deal with. Yeah.
The first AD, as far as television and film goes, the first AD has the shortest lifespan after retirement.
I can see that.
Just all the stress that they're under.
Yeah.
So it's just, I try to make their lives as easy as possible, and I cut them tons of slack. They are being yelled at and nipped at every corner,
Right.
and they don't need me to join in that. And I'm like, I understand. Yell at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can take it. I'm not about to go out and do anything dangerous. I'm watching. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a job I could not do.
First AD.
First AD.
I wouldn't want first AD. I wouldn't want to be line producer either, because you're the one that has to tell the production no, and you're the one getting yelled at from the studio.
You got both sides.
Yeah, you're getting a 3 a.m. call no matter what. So, and there are people that love it, but I'm like, I don't think I could do that.
Some
either.
people thrive in that kind of conflict.
Yeah.
Kind of
yeah,
situation.
some people, if that's where you like to be, then there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm like, I'd rather not be in those positions, and I'm not I tell myself this, so naturally I'm not, but I don't consider myself a big numbers person anyway. So, I like to think of myself more on the creative side.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same about that as well. I'm not the producer type for sure.
But you're producing your own podcast.
Yeah, well, it's all free, so
And your first
have a lot of
AD-ing it.
numbers.
And
Yeah, right. Yeah, AD, producer, editor. Yeah. So Here's one that I like to ask guys, and if you don't want to, that's fine too. But in the stunt business, a big part of it is sometimes having to deal with injuries. First of all, have you had an incident where you got injured? If you want to share that, and then like how did you get through it? How did you deal with it?
Well, here's the thing about stunt work. Stunt work is kind of like the professional sports of television and film, right? Or even stage for that matter. So there's a point, and you can tell when someone's at it, but I tell stunt people this all the time. Listen, there's a point where either you're going to do it or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're inside, you're telling you no, then saying yes is the wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I usually go, no matter what's happening, if you're feeling a little weird, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe it's something we can track down.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your insides are telling you something and you don't even know why, but there's a problem.
Interesting.
So I don't mind that. If that's going to keep me away from an injury or a death, even. Hey, sun coming up or not. I'd rather get fired and nobody injured than, hurt or maim or kill somebody.
Yeah.
So and you have to be sensitive because usually those moments happen at tense parts of the day.
Right. Yeah.
So I think you have to be really open and sensitive to that because it's easy to make a bad decision in those areas. And I, on that
especially
note,
I
will tell you an injury story. But on that note, I was covering a set once, and because the stunt coordinator, he flew me out because they were in Europe, but he flew me out. But he was second unit directing at night, the action unit, and the main unit was filming on stages during the day, so he had to sleep sometimes. So I went out to help cover set. But the very first day I was there, he was sleeping. I didn't have a chance to talk to him very much. So, and there wasn't any time. That was before everybody had a cell phone and email. There was some email, but not a whole lot of it and stuff. Yeah. So it's in the late 90s. And so, I got there, and then they wanted a Steadicam and an actor up on this walkway that I went over and grabbed the walkway, and it was tied off, but it was like shaking all over the place. And the actor was like, 5'11", 6 foot, but the Steadicam guy, he's like one of the bigger Steadicam guys I've seen. He was like 6'4", 6'5", he's a big guy, and I'm like, with him walking behind the actor, and they're not, there was a rail there, but it's moving too. I'm like, somebody's gonna fall off this thing. So I said no. And I didn't even know this production. And unfortunately, I'm speaking for my buddy who's sleeping.
Yeah.
And but I'm like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not comfortable with how this looks.
Yeah.
Cause now, if I'd had more of time there and done more on that and stuff, maybe I would have said something different. But at that point, I'm like, no. Yeah. And I was, relatively young at that time, so and young in the business at the time. So I was like,
that's a big decision to make, big call.
Having to say no when they're setting up to shoot something is not fun. Isn't fun. No. And the line producer, he got in my face, and he was yelling. He was yelling so much. He was spitting on me, not intentionally, but just yeah. And I was just trying to stay calm. I wasn't trying to patronize him. I understood.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, but and he just passed away a couple of years ago. I saw on Facebook that he had passed away, which is unfortunate. He's a great guy, a great producer, but I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable with this, and that's what I'm here for, is to make sure that what is happening is safe. And we have the lead actor up there, we have our Steadicam operator up there. If something happens, we don't even have pads on the ground, and they were like 20, 25 feet up, so it's like even pads wouldn't have really mattered. So I mean, it would have, but depending on what they were, but we didn't have them anyway. So not at that stage. They were out with second unit. They were out in this big field, and so they were stored there. So I'm like, we can't. I don't even know who to talk to.
Yeah.
I just got here. Anyway, but they
That's a
called
bad
John,
place
and
to
John said, well,
put
Dave
him.
is there for that reason,
Yeah.
they woke him up, and he was like, so, I can't say yes over the phone not knowing what's going on, so I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah.
no as well, and so it turned into this huge, big hubbubaloo. But what I learned at that point was then I said, well, listen, why don't we do this where we can throw a line on the actor, get him getting up there, getting ready, and then that'll give you a band-aid to set up for this other thing that's because I did read the script. I looked on the call sheet that was going to happen over there, and if you give an option, generally that's at least something.
Something. Yeah.
So they said, okay, we'll do that, and it didn't look great, because it wasn't, nothing was real prepared, but he was just because he was supposed to look like he was climbing up this pillar, thing,
Wow.
and then pulled himself up and over.
Yeah.
So we just put up a little one shiv and a line on him, but we didn't have a running line or anything that would have taken for that
For
run
the
on that
whole
thing. Yeah.
catwalk or whatever. Yeah.
So I ended up working out okay, I guess, for that. But I knew I was like hanging out after John showed up, and I stayed a little while with second unit because they actually were going to shoot in that same set that night. They were coming in from the field. They had this big battle thing, so they were moving everything in, and they were going to shoot in that. So I just stayed for like half the night anyway, but not that night, but the next night I stayed half the night. But that night, I was staying a little while just to help him, talk to him. Apologize. Said I'm probably out of here. So it's like he's like don't worry about it. But anyway, so then I assumed that Frank the producer had already left, and so I went and got in the van. He said, "You go on back, get some rest, and then we'll tag team tomorrow. We'll talk some more tomorrow." We did have a conversation, but then after that, he's like, "There's too much going on. I gotta get stuff set up." Okay, so and it was just set up for the next night. Next night was gonna be the big night for the second unit action. But anyway, so I got in the van, and then right after me, the producer Frank got in the van, and he sat down next to me, and I'm thinking, "Oh, here it comes." Probably already have a ticket waiting on me to go home.
Yeah.
But van door closed, and van takes off from this studio, and he looked at me, he goes, David, I was very angry at you for what happened today. And I said, no, I totally understood, Frank. He's like, he said, hold on. He said, but I will tell you this. Now I know I can trust you. He says, you're not going to bend whenever you believe something isn't going to happen. He said, and I respect that. He said,
That's
so I
cool.
feel like we're safer now with you here. And I said, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Frank. And we ended up getting along great after that, But that always pops in my head, that feeling when you're like, I just had a feeling something was going to happen if I let them up there. So.
Yeah, and to follow that and to listen to that in the midst of a screaming producer, that's tough. That's hard to do. That's tough.
Ability to say no. The ability to say no. We want to please. Everybody wants to please.
Yeah.
But if you haven't rehearsed something, it's going to take time to rehearse something to make it safe. If they want, as long as you know what your puzzle piece parts are, So if you can make it safe, then that's different. But if it's something that it's going to take 4 or 6 hours to rehearse this, and you got to tell them that.
Got to do it.
You either stick to your guns. It's better to not, and plus you don't want to look like crap either.
Yeah, right.
Why would you want that to be your signature? Oh, the last thing I did looked like crap because it was, So.
Because
But earlier, when we were in Lithuania, my buddy John, he was also the bad guy in like the last episode. He was like an anti-Robin Hood.
What show is this again?
It was a Warner Brothers International product called The New Adventures of Robin Hood. It was
The New Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah, it was like a Hercules Xena kind of clone show, but it was on Robin Hood. So.
Oh, that's cool.
It was filmed in Vilnius in Lithuania, and so I was basically coordinating the last episode.
Okay.
And and he and I were on and off camera a lot, just tons of different roles all through the thing, just because they only had a certain number of
actors or
English-speaking people. Most of the actors came from England, but anyway, so there's a scene where John's men. And he was like the Arabian Nights, so he was from Arabia, and his men were kind of pressuring. They're kind of like pressuring the tavern owners and stuff. In other words, wanting protection money, that kind of thing, the old mob kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So nobody was in this tavern, and they had a Lithuanian actor who spoke pretty good English, but not fantastic English. But anyway, he didn't have a lot of dialogue anyway. But he was the only one in the tavern. So Juan, the director, he was the camera's behind, and so he said, "I want the stunt team, the bad guys to come in here. The actor's going to grab the knife off of the counter and approach them, holding it threateningly, and then." The stunt guy, the lead stunt guy, whose name was Solus, which in Lithuanian means sunshine, but he was right behind me. And earlier I'd spoken to the actor, "Hey, do you know what's going on in the scene? Are you comfortable? I just want to touch base with people."
Yeah.
"Oh, you say no? Oh yeah, I active, stuff like this." But he was a short guy and kind of dumpy, a little bit older at the time. I was pretty young. But he's like, "Oh, I can fight," and I'm like, "Oh, you don't have to do any fighting." He's like, "Oh, but I can." I'm like, "Okay, I understand."
Good to know.
But that kind of leads into what happened. So, he comes in, and I tell Solis, I said, "Well, thrust the knife." So he thrusts that, and I said, "You're gonna grab it, twist it up, pull the knife out, and then grab him and pull him in. Turn him around, pull him in, so he's facing away from you." And then Juan, the camera's was on. My left shoulder, and so I just turned just a little bit. "Juan, do you want us to go around the table and exit left, or do you want them to exit right?" And he's like, "Oh, around the table is more interesting because it's across the lens." I'm like, "Okay." So I just put my hand on his shoulder, and I was talking to Solus right behind me, and so I said, "So Solus, you're just going to take him," and I pushed him, and for some reason the actor acted like he got a face punch, and he goes, wham, like that, and he slams the back of his head right next to my nose, right above my tooth, and right below my eye. So it wasn't on the orbit bone, it was on that little bone, that little area right there. But the whole head hit the whole mouth.
Oh man.
And John said he had just walked into the sound stage, and it sounded like somebody hit me in the face with a baseball bat.
Wow.
And so it was like a crack. And I remember letting him go, and I put my hand on the table, and I said, and I was out.
Really?
I was out.
Wow.
And John said they got me in a van, and I was in and out on the van saying a bunch of weird stuff. And he was worried but laughing and stuff. But he had to get back because I wasn't there. Now somebody's got to cover set. So he rode me to where they were taking me to the doctors, like some Russian neurologist. The first thing I remember after that was in this Russian neurologist's office. She was like 5 feet and 280 pounds or something, and she says, "I want you to take off your clothes and lay on the sofa." I'm like, "Oh, that's the best offer I've had in a while," But she hit me all over with this rubber hammer, and doing this, I guess, reflex test or something. And by this time, my lip was like huge, just like gigantic.
And how come you had to be naked for this?
What's that?
And how come you had to be naked for this?
Well, I was in my underwear. I don't know. I guess she just wanted to hit the nerve points. I guess she just wanted to make sure that nothing was,
no clothes were.
My eyes were. This eye dilation was way big. This one was small. Just some stuff going on concussion wise, I guess. So and then she goes, "Okay, put on clothes and follow me." So I get dressed again, and we go into this. Looks like a decompression chamber, with the door, with a submarine type door opens up, and then I get strapped into this chair, almost like this chair, like this. Strapped in here and on the arms, and there's this box right in front of me, metal box. And I'm going, okay. And then they put this thing on my head, pull my head back, and I'm like, and they go, "Okay, don't move." And they go out and they close the door, and I'm like, "What the freak's going on?" And all of a sudden the metal box in front of me goes, I didn't move, but I was like, "What? That's a little weird." And then they come back and, "Okay, we get you out." And then got up, and then by the time I got out and
was that an X-ray or something?
It was an X-ray machine, probably the first one ever invented or something. I don't know. It looked like something out of Jules Verne movie or something. It was crazy, and I was like. Then she brought the X-rays in. She put them on these things, and I had a hairline fracture all the way from just below the eye socket all the way down just past the tip of this tooth.
Wow.
She goes, she says, "You have concussion, you have a cracked skull." She said, "Oh, but you will not lose tooth." I went, "Well, that's a plus. It's a plus right here." And then I don't know if you've been overseas, especially in Eastern Europe a lot, but they don't have drugstores. They have apothecaries. So when you get it's an apothecary. It's like a drugstore, but they make everything right in front of you. So she wrote this thing down. She goes, "Go to get this medicine." So but I don't. I don't know what's in those apothecaries. So I went,
Right.
okay, thanks. You
Yeah.
know, and she said, take this and sleep for 12 hours. And I went, oh, okay, thanks. I think she got it backwards. I think she meant to say, don't sleep for
Don't
12
sleep
hours.
because
Yeah.
you're not supposed to sleep
Yeah,
when
I'm
you have a
like,
concussion,
she said, I had a
right?
concussion, so, you know.
So 12 hours,
And so
especially.
anyway, I go down the van, another van. The van had taken John back, and he came back, and he's like, so he goes, go to a hotel? And I went, no, let's just go back to the stage. I didn't want to just sit around the freaking hotel.
Right. Yeah.
We're at the end of this thing. We were there for 8 months or something else, and we're so tired of not being in the United States at that point. Not there's anything wrong with Lithuania. It was just, you're away from home.
Did it swell up a lot?
It was huge. The actress playing Maid Marian, she saw me. Oh, David, you don't need collagen injections. I went, oh, that's funny. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's funny. But anyway, it's a good thing I went back to the stages though, because I guess a part of the story I should have elaborated on. The production company had hired a Russian team from St. Petersburg to come in and be a lot of the bad guys. They weren't only one or two of them. I think were in the group. We had Lithuanians were a little taller than the Russians, so they were taller and thinner. So we had mainly Lithuanians for John's bad guys, but they kind of took ownership of, especially me, because I was always goofing around with them and stuff, and showing them stuff that they were showing me stuff that we didn't know, and I showed them stuff they didn't know. So it's a good thing I went back to the stage though, because I walk into the stage and I'm only like 4 or 5 steps, in, and this guy, this actor, he comes running out of nowhere and he dives on the floor and he's holding my legs and he's like on his knees and he's bawling, he's crying and saying something. I have no idea what he's saying. He's talking in Lithuanian, and I'm like, is this some kind of Lithuanian ritual that I'm not sure of? I mean, it wasn't his fault. He was an accident. He was trying to help out.
Right.
But and Elena was one of our interpreters that was kind of tasked with sticking around the stunt department. So I saw Elena in the corner. I'm like, Elena, looking this way. Come here.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here? And she looks at me and she just points back towards the door. And I look over my shoulder. And the whole Russian stunt team is lined up on the wall next to the door, staring at this guy. And I'm like, oh, now I know what's going on. Because they thought he intentionally hurt one of the team members, and now they're going to take him out.
Take it out.
So I asked her to have them come over, and I asked her to translate. I didn't, Sergei Golovkin was their leader, and he's a great guy. He's a great stunt guy and a great guy. But I just wanted to be clear. I wanted to make sure that what I was saying was the way I was saying it. So I had Elena.
Right.
I don't think Sergei was there anyway. But so I just had Elena translate for me, and I said, "Listen, this was an accident. He didn't know he was going to hit me. It was an accident. He thought that's what I wanted him to do, because we had talked about if he had to do any fight stuff, then we would rehearse it. So he didn't know. It wasn't his fault." And they're all like, look at each other, look at me. Hit me on the back, bam, and then they all left. And I'm like, boy, if I hadn't gone back to the stages, this guy would have ended up under a bridge somewhere.
Right.
I don't know, but they took it very seriously
man.
if someone messed with the stunt team.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. But that lip was huge. I asked some photos of it. It's like, hey, how's it going? Looked like something from Twilight Zone. But,
well, different countries and different cultures. That's the thing, you got to keep in mind when you do go overseas to work on something.
What I noticed was that.
Seeing things.
Yeah, and what I noticed from that was that we were trendsetters, So we also had to be careful. John and I were the only, other than actors and maybe a couple other people, we were the only interacting with everybody, the only Americans really that were there. And so we didn't want to do something that because it would spread like wildfire, especially through the general crew who were younger.
Yeah.
Like if we showed up, sometimes I would, sometimes to get into a mood, you want to listen to some music or something. So I had a Walkman, with headset and stuff. So I brought that on a few days and was just listening, because we had this whole sequence out in the woods that was going to happen and stuff. So I was just feeling it out and stuff.
Yeah.
Because music's, great. Your choreography always goes great with music. That's the reason they put music on films.
When you're doing it, yeah.
But then after that, a few days later, the rest of the show, everybody's walking around with Walkmans on and stuff. And I'm like,
really?
And I'm thinking, wow, I hope I didn't start a bad trend.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think about it when I was doing it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just what I do,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was
That's
interesting. But
interesting.
I started really paying attention to, what I personally was doing. I didn't want to cause problems between production and, not that I was trying to not do anything. I wasn't doing anything provocative anyway. But
sometimes even just unintentionally
Well,
you may do something.
this isn't my country, it isn't my city, it isn't my culture, you know, and
Right.
I'm, you know, just because this is for American consumption, but international consumption too. There's a lot of international flair on it. You know, I just don't. I like to be respectful before just, you know, walking into the rose garden, you know,
Right.
and then walking back in the house with muddy boots. I don't want to
Yeah.
be the person that's just doing what I want to do. I want to think
Right.
about things a little bit. And I think because I think that's where a lot of problems happen is just a misunderstanding.
Misunderstandings. Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in Japan, it took me a long time to adjust to a lot of their rules and their cultural expectations. But one of the hardest ones was the whole shoe thing, because like if you go to a gym, like the LA Fitness equivalent or whatever there, so you got your workout shoes in your bag and the shoes that you wear, and you have to leave those shoes at the front, and then you got to put on some slippers to walk across that area until you get to the actual gym
area, yeah.
And then you have to take those slippers off and put your shoes on if you're going to work out. But then if you go in the locker room, you got to take your shoes off, put on little slippers to go into the locker room. And then if you want to go to the bathroom in the locker room, you got to get out of those slippers and put in another pair of slippers to go just into the bathroom.
So it's real easy to slip up.
Yes.
That really sucks, man. Well, but the thing is that the culture's there for a reason. So I
yeah,
mean,
they have their reasons,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't make sense to you. And you're like, this is so annoying. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we annoy them more than we're annoyed by them.
Yeah,
when you're in somebody
probably.
else's country, it's like because you don't know what you're doing, and they're like,
Yeah. These damn
Yeah.
stupid big Americans. Ugh. Yeah.
No, but then they walk up, Clint Eastwood. It's like, no, I don't know Clint Eastwood. But you know, it's like it's just funny stuff. But yeah, I
It
mean,
is.
it's interesting how some of the British people, especially the sound guy, Harry Brooks.
Mm.
He was the sound guy, and he was always very polite. He always sounded like upper crust. He's a little bit older gentleman. He was always like, sound turning, no chattering about, please. You know, and
It's good.
he'd tell the most filthiest jokes.
Oh, really?
Sometimes, just to us, you know, just to some of the guys. He was really funny. He had a really funny sense of humor and stuff. But he also said something about, he cornered me one day. He says, you know, David, you and John are just such lovely people. He's like, you know, I just wish that every American I met was exactly like you guys. I just took that as a great compliment.
Yeah.
You know, we were
Yeah.
just trying to do our thing and not step on anybody's toes, but not have it be limiting.
So you did radio. You said back in the day you were a disc
yeah,
jockey,
as a
right?
DJ, and when I started college, you know, you're always looking for jobs to try
Yeah.
to.
So is this in Arkansas?
Yeah, it was in Conway, Arkansas,
Oh.
and it was a lot of fun. It was a small station, you know.
Yeah.
Not,
What kind of genre of music or whatever was it?
It was adult contemporary.
Okay.
And pop-ish, you know, but mainly adult contemporary, I think, which was, I think, different than what people think adult contemporary. Looking back on it, you know, we played, you know, a lot of stuff, but the music programming was really, you know, smaller stations could be a little more edgy and also could be a little more experimental. So a lot of stuff we played that nobody had ever heard of and generally ended up being in major consumption about 6 or 8 months later. So I'm like, you should be programming stations,
Yeah.
buddy. So
Yeah.
he was really good at that, and he had a really good ear, and he would tell you when you were screwing up. So
Did
that
you
was
have
a great way to learn.
Did you have a name? Call name?
I just went by my first and middle name because, you know, Morizot is kind of a weird radio name, so I just went by David Martin
Okay.
or Dave Martin. You know, not related to Dave Martin, the stunt person. So
There is a David Martin.
there is.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
you and I are friends.
You guys, yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's just I didn't want to make up a stupid name, and
Yeah.
you know, so I just used my first and middle name.
Is that fun? Was that a lot of fun doing that?
Yeah, you know, it depends on the day. You know, I also would cover. They would also broadcast the local sports games and stuff, and nobody wanted to work those because you're in the sound booth. You're not out. You know, they had their
Right.
sports commentators. Usually,
Yeah.
it's a play-by-play person and a color guy. Color guy's filling the gaps in between plays. The play-by-play is just saying what's
what's
going
happening
on the court,
and
on
then
the court or on the
the
field.
caller is kind of
Yeah.
given like
Yeah, so when you hear somebody saying,
information.
"Boy, back in '23, they had a similar situation," well, that's the color guy. They're just adding color to the broadcast.
I see.
And the play-by-play is the one going, "Looks like Hutchfield has taken the ball. He's going down, dropping back. He's under some pressure. He's running to the right." Things like that.
Yeah.
But that's so they're always together because, but then they like to mess with the person in the booth, who's miles and miles away.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go back for a look at the weather. I was always right on it, so they loved having me there because I was paying attention. But you take an 8-hour shift or longer in a small booth and you start going bananas. People.
Yeah.
I don't smoke or anything, but a lot of people, you very rarely can smoke in the sound booth because it just gets in all the electronics and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
So people are going outside for a smoke break. They always called the longer song because nowadays there are longer songs, but back then, they were medium-sized songs. It wasn't like the 60s and maybe early 70s when
where you had
songs were like 2
10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. But yeah, so you get a song like, Let It Be or something like that. You call that a bathroom break song or something because you go use the bathroom and then come back. Or some people call it a cigarette song.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a cigarette song in about 10 minutes. Because usually you would, the way that Chris would design the music rotation is that he usually would give you a couple of spots during an hour, 1 or 2 spots during an hour that you play something,
Right.
But he would get on you if it wasn't a good feel for the rest of the stuff going on. So you had to know your music and you had to know what you had to kind of go for. You listen to what you just put. Back then we were using carts. We were kind of like small 8 tracks with one song on it. Nowadays they just
that's what you did. So you just put that in.
Yeah, we had turntables too, so we still use vinyl, but generally we had what's called a cart machine, and it's like flying a plane, I guess, in a very simple manner. You have 20 different things going on, in addition to if you're going to, if it's time for you to speak or whatever. So, you've got to have, you also have commercials. Those were on carts as well. Or you had commercial things you had to read, usually the news. If you didn't have a news cart or throwing it to somebody doing some news live, you would do the news,
That sounds interesting, man.
It was a lot of
Sounds kinda
fun. It was
Yeah.
definitely a great. It didn't pay much, but
Yeah.
it was fun. They actually made me the morning operations manager at one point because I was just good at not screwing things up and paying attention and stuff, and also didn't mind getting up way early. So,
the morning show, you got to be up.
Yeah, we did a morning show for a while. So that was kind of a little if and yes and no, just because of sponsorship for it and stuff.
Yeah.
So because it was get more people there, it wasn't necessarily a small station, not making a lot of money.
Right.
So I would generally do some stuff anyway if we had other people there or not for a morning type show. Because you're gonna obviously the main thrust for a morning show, especially during drive time to work, is tell a few things going on in the world and also keep letting people know what's going on, that all the updates you're getting traffic wise, So
Can you give like a little sample?
yeah, and I didn't do a big time radio voice. A lot of guys they want to go, hi,
Right, to
I'm
go
a
over the
radio
top with
jock,
it.
and I'm gonna be talking. To me, I was more. I just tried to smooth it out a little bit without being boring. I spoke generally kind of like what I'm doing now. I'd say, well, Steve Winwood, back in the High Life, he wrote, that was produced in whatever, and you want to, if you could say 1 or 2 things about songs, so you just would, your life turns into trying to figure out some little tidbits.
Trivias and
Yeah,
stuff.
some little tidbits that not
Throw
dig
little
too
jokes
deep.
in now and then.
But then you'd start the next one, and they have this thing called the before the music. It just went out of my head now. But anyway, before the singing actually starts or something definite in the music starts, generally you want to fill that a little bit with some more talk. So you want to talk up to that point, but you don't want to step on what the important stuff is.
So like the song, the lead up, like the
Yeah,
they
it's
call
like
that?
it's like the opening of the song, but in radio jargon, there's a word for it. I can't remember off the top of my
Okay.
head. It was only 40 years ago. but I still have my FCC license. They've changed them now. And used to you only had to apply for it once, and once you had it, and mine says it doesn't expire, but I think they forced them all to expire, and then I think you have to re-up them every 10 years. Now I believe I haven't kept up
interesting.
with it, but. I still have my FCC, my original FCC license. Well, the only
cool.
FCC license I've had. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Radio is the funny thing about radio is the people that listen to you, because then if they see you, like go to a party or something, oh, you're Dave Martin. It's like, They always say,
the
you
voice,
don't look like you
don't-
sound.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
It very
Sorry.
seldom is the case, though, that
Yeah.
somebody looks like how they sound.
Well,
especially
people
on
get
radio.
people get a picture in their head.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing about reading a book and then watching a film. You know,
Yeah.
if you read a book, you've created a film in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and the characters are looking a certain way, and so if casting goes the direction of that's close to what you're thinking, oh, that's great casting. But if it's
Mm-hmm.
nothing like you're thinking, oh, that's horrible casting. I'm like, well, why don't you wait and see if the movie's any good?
Right.
It might be great
Before you-
casting.
yeah.
The acting's what's important, you know,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
presence, not necessarily what exactly. Now, I understand if it's in the book, there's a reason why somebody had to look a certain way or whatever, then I get it. You know, that can be a little shocking to go, whatever. But I'm like, well, if they're, it's the same thing when they remake a film or do a sequel or a prequel to an IP or something. It's like people act like, well, it's all ruined now. I'm like, well, no, you still have what you loved about it, right? I
Yeah.
don't think it went
You
away.
still have the first one. That
They
was
didn't
great,
delete
right?
all those and then
Yeah.
put things out there. I don't know. It's maybe I'm
Yeah.
looking at it a little too simply, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel that I feel that it's good to take ownership of something. That's what fans do.
Yeah.
It's not because they're being, you know. I think Henry Cavill put it that way. He's like, the fans are the experts in on the genre because they're fans of
That's
it, and they've
what they
it's close to their
love.
heart.
Yeah.
So the reason they're saying things is because they care.
Yeah.
So
That's
don't
true.
look at it that they're yelling at you for stuff or they're complaining. It's just that they care.
Yeah.
He says, and that's a good thing for fans to do. And I totally agree with that statement. I'm like, let's not, you know, if someone's taking something apart, it's, you know, listen to them first. It's just saying
Right.
random stuff that doesn't mean anything. Well, it doesn't matter what they're talking about, you know.
And in the end, that's really who you're doing it all for, anyways.
You would
know?
think, yeah, you would think. I mean, I have questions on some IP, the way some IPs have been handled, if that's true, because you read some stuff from, you know, people from the studio or even directors or whatever. You know, no, we didn't want anybody that had watched the original IP or something. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's how you got to this place.
Yeah, or
Why
they say
would you-
stuff like a director, or like I remember when Jennifer went and did Jennifer Garner went and did Elektra. Not the part she had on the Ben Affleck Daredevil film, but the standalone movie. And Shauna, you know, her stunt double, and Shauna also was stunt coordinator the last season and a half of Alias. Shauna Duggins.
Yeah.
Shauna Duggins. But you know, Shauna said that the director said, you know, kept saying, "I'm not making a comic book movie," and I'm like,
But
you
you
know,
are.
well, then what are you making? I mean, I don't understand what the product is at this point, because Elektra was a comic book character,
Yeah.
and you know,
That's-
he had, and I just, you know, I'm not someone that wants to criticize people's decisions, but he had the world's greatest assassin. You know, he spent more time on her crying, treading water, and running through the forest than actually fighting. You know, I'm like that.
Fans
I
ain't
don't
gonna go
know
for
if that's
that.
a good. I mean, I kind of got what he was going for. He wanted to humanize her, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, you know. And then saying, well, I'm not making a comic book movie. I don't care if the fans like it. I'm like, well, that's you have a machine to print some money, and you're saying you don't care. I don't know.
Yeah,
It always
exactly.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense at
Yeah.
all. Not as a business standpoint or anything.
Yeah, or is anybody? I mean, I'm like, why did you take it if you don't like it? I don't
Right.
understand. You know, just to destroy it? I don't know.
I don't get it. So how about do you have any advice for new people coming into the business? And as far as that goes, across the board, any advice? Middle-aged, older people in the business, but especially like the newcomers up and coming.
Well, you know, I think learning about the business is something, and learning about who was it? Who was in Silence of the Lambs?
Oh, Anthony
Hopkins. Okay, I think it was Anthony Hopkins that said, you know, the problem with film being art is that it's also a business.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with film being a business is that it's art. So those things are in conflict with each other.
Right.
And also that means that it's a very dichotomous business on the way things can happen, even on set. because there's a lot of business decisions being thrown around and a lot of artistic decisions being thrown around, and they merge, and they don't always merge well. So I think that knowing that you need to keep your eyes open and be listening and paying attention is one thing that is going to help anyone, really, but especially someone who's not familiar with the business. And also, I generally tell people, listen, each department has their own needs, and they have their own problems. And each department needs each other department, but stunts especially. We need costumes, we need hair, we need makeup, we need picture cars, we need transpo, we need all of them. We need camera, we need, so, you don't need to go around acting like you're on the most important job on set, because you're not,
Yeah.
Every job is the most important job on set. And one of the worst things you can do, I believe, as a coordinator is, let's say, go to costumes. Okay, let's say I'm fight coordinating, and I'm wondering what they're going to put the lead actress in who's going to be fighting, because is she going to be able to do the choreography in this? Is it going to work?
Right.
So if I walk in, and what department is probably the tiredest department? All of them, but especially costumes. They're there early, and they have to wait till everyone's gone, and they have to start getting stuff clean. It's just somebody's out buying all the time. So they're repairing things. And obviously they have different shifts, but it's still difficult. And they're very creative as well. And I think they do a great job. Some stuff doesn't make sense to us, but but I understand their viewpoint. That's their job. They're going to focus on this. But if I go to the costume designer, or perhaps the the second in charge, and I just see them, hey, I go up to their office, I see them, or if I see them, I'll say, hey, listen, I want to talk about what the lead actress is fighting. They're already doing 5 things. They don't need me to run up and give them another thing
to think about.
Even if they act like they're listening, they're not going to listen, and they're not going to, and I'm intruding,
Right.
So what I tell people that are going to be full time with me, whether it's rigging or assisting or doubling or whatever, is ask them how they're doing. If I see, if I go to the costume department and I see the costume designer or the costume lead person, I'm gonna, hey, how things going? You guys probably swamped, right? Oh yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. It's like amazing to me how you guys do everything. It always looks great, and you have no time and no money to do it. She's like, you got that right, and I'm like, and she's like, oh, by the way, your guys are the best. Thank you so much for hiring people that are rude, that aren't rude, and actually hang up their clothes and stuff like this, and makes our job so much easier. I'm like, oh, no worries. And I'm like, hey, if a lot of times they'll go, oh, we've got a fight coming up. Don't, now she's included, he or she has included me. Oh, we've got a fight coming up. Well, you have them in. I'm like, yeah, definitely. Or if they don't, I can bring it up. Hey, I don't want to bother you. If you thought anything about the fight that's coming up next week in scene 46 or whatever. Oh, that's right. There's that fight. Yeah, they haven't approved anything yet. Let me show you what the options are. Okay, yeah, definitely. I'd love to see that. Now, this is what I thought would work great, because this is probably what they're going to pick, because it seems like they always go for da-da-da-da-da. I sent this in. I hate it. They hate it. The actress loves it. So, da-da-da-da-da-da, And I'm like, well, I tell you what, if they go for this, that's kind of short. Can we, well, not, she can't always be in pantsuits, David. I know. Sorry. I'm like, could we get maybe some, biker or compression shorts or something underneath it that look kind of like her skin or something? Like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And I'm like, and I'll talk to the on-set costumer, but maybe if they have that little thing to stitch the skirt together or something, just so when they kick or whatever, it's not showing everything under the dress or whatever. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, when you've done it on some other shows, oh, well, that's a great idea. I'm going to put that in my back pocket and say it was my idea. I'm like, oh, okay, great. But you care about them, and you ask what their problems are, and, you just hand them your problem. You ask, have they thought about this? Because it's both of our problem, really. But if I just walk in, can't be, it's the hardest thing is shoes. Do you know what kind of shoes they're going to be? Oh, you know what? I did think about that. And I needs to be wearing this type of shoe. It's in the script this way, and they've dissected the script.
True.
Probably almost as good or better than me. And so they're like, it has to be da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, do you think there could be a stunt buyout for that, just a stunt type shoe, even for the actress, for not featuring the feet.
Yeah.
When she's moving around, she doesn't break her ankle. She's like, that's a very good idea. I will get on that. It's just treating people as the department head that they are, or important person as they are, just a human being, and realizing me giving them my problem isn't helping me or them. Finding out about their problem and being nice to them, and also understanding, hey, how you doing? Oh, it's great. I don't have any time. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Realizing that's not the time anyway. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I feel like the master's in diplomacy has helped you quite a bit.
It's the time and place for everything. This isn't the time, and that's not the place.
Yeah. But so true, man. Such good advice, man. Because if you, like you said, start getting people on your side, they're going to be so much.
My grandfather used
better.
To say, not necessarily specifically about what I was just talking about, but the difference between an argument and a discussion is, an argument is to find out who is right, and a discussion is to find out what is right. So
wow, that's
only
cool.
One of those actually helps you.
Yeah. So. I love that.
And I try to think about that whenever, especially when because somebody pushes you, if you feel like pushing back. But I'm like, well, they're pushing me for a reason. Let me try to give them a little grace, and let's see what's going on. Maybe they're just really stressed, and I can maybe help them with that. Yell at me. That way they get it out, and then
if we could just have
4 days later they come up, I am so sorry, I'm so embarrassed, I almost called you 5 times, but then I thought, no, he's busy. And I'm like, it's okay, don't worry about it, I get it. Hey, I get stressed too, but I won't call you. Please don't.
Man, if we could just have a little bit more of that in the world.
I think so, and I tell that to especially the young stunt performers, but sometimes you got to remind all of us, who are the people around the actors the most? Well, costume, hair, makeup. Who are the people that generally are in the producer's ears all the time? Costumes, hair, makeup. So if you just treat them like garbage, who are making sure that you don't get hired again here? Costume, hair, makeup. One of the shows, one of the earlier shows that I coordinated, it was very interesting to me. And one bad apple can, I thought you guys were different. Stunts are all the same. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, the person you hired for 3 weeks ago said this and didn't do that. I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'll make sure that they know that they shouldn't do that, and I'm not going to hire that person for this production.
Yeah.
Really? Well, yeah. I don't want one person labeling the entire stunt department.
The whole. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
good.
And that's a good way to not, get anybody rehired. But I was on an earlier. In my stunt coordinating career, I was on a show, and it was a episodic. And at the end of the season, I went in to speak to the line producer because she had all her fingers and everything, and I that was going on set and in production stuff. And I said, hey, can I get an end of season review? Is everything okay? And she looked at me. She said, you know what? She said, I've been in this business for about 30 years. And she said, I'm doing this type of job, either UPM or this. And she's like, this is the very first time where I've had one department that the other departments didn't complain about. And no department has ever complained about the stunt department. So I don't know how you did it, but keep doing that. I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
That's cool. That's a good compliment.
So,
right
yeah,
there,
to me, that's
Yeah.
Up there with things looking good and nobody hurts. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. I don't think a lot of some of the newer stunt people, especially, realize how important hair people are, because, man, if you get one on your bad side and then on the next show down the road and the coordinator holds up two stunt people and saying, yeah, which one do you think will work better with the hair? Man, if they remember you and they don't like you, that could cost you a job.
People remember who they don't like more than who they like.
What's that? They remember who they don't like
more than who they like. Because when someone's a problem, they've given them a reason to remember them.
Right. Sorry, I have a little sneaky person over here.
Sorry.
I usually don't do this, but I gotta say hi to you.
Crazy Zumba nut.
Zumba
nut.
Sorry.
We were just talking about you.
You are, yeah?
Yeah.
Join my Zumba.
Duke, we're just talking about how talented you are. And You know, he needs to interview you next. Matter of fact, as soon as I leave, he's leaving this running, and you're going to hop on.
We're just going to take over.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're
I
good.
just have to say hi to
Oh,
you.
no worries. You're not leaving? Are you leaving again?
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
going to Zumba.
She is a Zumba freak.
Give me a hug.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's great seeing
I
you.
have sake, very good sake, if you like, after the shooting.
Sandeo Sakio Kudasai.
Well, good to see you.
Drive
Have
safe.
fun.
Okay.
You bet. Drive
Bye, babe.
safe. Who was that? No, just kidding.
Who's that again? But yeah, man, it's important to think about everybody, and I mean, you want them on their side, but you know, you just want to make their life easy. Nobody wants to.
Well, you don't want the coordinator to be getting your headaches either. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's no reason to be rude to people who are just doing what they've been told to do.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand what that gets anybody. You know, I understand people get frustrated, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
I understand frustration boils over. But being rude and intentionally rude, I'm like, are you expecting a positive response from that? Oh, you're being rude. Whoa, let me be nice now. I don't get it. You
Yeah.
know?
It's just going to come back and hurt yourself eventually.
I think so, but you know what you put out there, generally you will get back in some form or another. If you respect somebody, sooner or later they will at least not disrespect you. So they may never like you or respect you, but you know it shouldn't be living in your mind anyway. You know, it's interesting. It's like a grudge. You know, a grudge. You know, my uncle told me one time, holding a grudge is like paying interest on a debt you don't owe. You know. Because let's say I'm angry at you, and I'm sitting around the house going, boy, that Duke Jackson, like Duke's really, you know, if I saw him, I'd say, Duke, you know, like, tell you this, you know. And meanwhile, Duke's at home going, I wonder if I want to make a sandwich, a little water maybe,
Yeah.
some hot
Right.
sake.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, so who's actually suffering in all that?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
what use is it? I don't get it.
Right. Yeah. Where do you see the business in 5 years?
It's an interesting question. For the time being, it's going to be in the UK. Because that's where everything is right now. Even though there's like, I think 400 projects have been greenlit for LA
Wow.
this next year, I believe. So that's what I've
That's
read.
good.
That's what I've read. Doesn't mean it's going to happen just because I wrote it down, then I read it. But hopefully that starts spilling out again a little bit. But I have noticed that when it's good for productions to go overseas for the money reasons, but there's a time when producers, directors, and actors want to be able to get home. And that's what usually brings productions back to the United States, is because they want to be able to either, if they live in New York or LA or Chicago, to do productions in those places, or at least be able to fly home every odd weekend or something like that. It's just something about being at home. You can be in the most beautiful place in the world, but after a while, it's still, if it still isn't home, it's just wearing on you.
Yeah.
Especially if you have kids or a relationship or whatever, because you become, if you're in a relationship, you become two different people. You become on the road people, and then together people, which is not good, because sooner or later, one of those is you. Either you're on the road, you know, on the separated people that are together that then will separate permanently, or you're going to have to quit being on the road because you just don't want to have the separation. So it's very, very difficult, very, very, very much of a tightrope. You have to kind of watch career versus life. But,
interesting. Yeah.
But for the next 5 years, I don't know. And I think anyone that says they do know, either they really know, or maybe they're just saying that what they think is going to happen and hope. I think that you know, there's always going to be new technology coming up, because new technology has always come up and it's always displaced parts of any business that it's affecting. You know, when automobiles started up, you know, they used to break down a lot, and if you owned one and you're trying to work on the side of the road, somebody would ride by and say, "Get a horse," you know. But you know, the automobiles won the new technology, and it put, you know, a lot of horse and buggy and horse tack, you know, horse buggy whip businesses out of business because there wasn't a demand anymore. Is that going to happen for television and film? Well, who knows? I don't think everyone knows exactly what's happening. Anybody says they know what's going to happen with with AI especially coming out, artificial intelligence, whether it even goes to AGI, artificial general intelligence, this year or soon or ever. I'm not exactly sure because there's a lot of meat on that bone that contradicts each other. You know, I've read a lot and watched a lot of YouTube videos on the topic, and the opinions are all over the spectrum from really well credentialed people. So
Right. It's
the
definitely
people that are
something-
very pro AI, I noticed and they're the ones that are talking it up so much. I noticed they're also the ones needing investors
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
it's going to take billions of dollars to develop a truly quantum processing chip that AI is going to require, AGI is going to require,
Yeah.
which isn't there yet,
Yeah.
and it's going to require an enormous amount of energy.
Yeah.
Which that's the reason, you know, Facebook just did a deal with a nuclear power plant and some other things like that going on. You know, it requires an enormous amount of energy for this
amount of energy. Yeah.
quantum computing. So the other side of that spectrum is, I just watched a video the other day, and there's a program or there's a mathematical formula that shows an explosive growth of information and ability that suddenly plateaus and often plummets
Interesting.
as far as growth is concerned, because you've run out of, for AI, information to feed it. In other words, it's been fed almost everything that can be fed to it right now, is what this person was saying. I'm not saying it's my opinion. And so it's going to start, the gains either won't be as high as everyone is saying, oh, it's going to keep doing this, maybe it will, or it potentially can become less because there's less for it to chew on that is valuable for its learning curve, because for AI to continue, it has to have a learning curve. A lot of people are saying, well, yeah, that's going to be combated with AI learning, you know, machine learning through other AI, but I'm like, well, but he's saying, well, you can say that, but the problem is they're not creating new information. It's all the same information.
Right.
So that's what causes a plateau. He said he thinks we're already in the plateau. That's what causes a plateau, and that's what will cause either a downward trend or whatever. So, you know, because I've spoken with some people in the business that are convinced, and there are some signs of it, that AI will take over, and there won't be any need for most people to, you know, to have television and film around, you know. So if that happens, I'm not sure, you know, there's always, I know one thing is going to be true. Well, that's television and film, but live performances, you know, it's going to be hard for AI to create live performances unless hologram technology is developed better. But I think there's always going to be people wanting to see people.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if they can react to a character that's an AI character, because people enjoy animated characters.
Right. I think you got a good point, because it's like, you know, right now we're in the stage where AI can make such great looking eye candy, and like, you know, all the things that we dreamed about doing, you know, where, you know, you can have this character, you know, fall and then go down the stairs and then do, you know, all in one take, and it looks great and it's cool, but I think it will get to the point where that's going to lose all meaning, because we know it's just an AI doing it. What makes it good is to know there's a person.
Yeah, exactly. And there's in robotics there's this thing called the uncanny valley. And I can't remember the roboticist scientist that came up with this, Japanese mathematician, but he's on a coin uncanny valley. But what it basically says is robots start off looking clunky, boxy, and then they start looking like people, arms and legs walking around. Then they start getting what looks like skin. Then they start getting, you know, they're cute in this phase. Oh, look at that little. But then once they get to almost being indistinguishable,
it's creepy now.
Exactly, it turns creepy, and that's causes the uncanny valley. Then people hate it.
Yes.
And it goes to zero because there's something inside all of us that can tell
Yeah.
whether we can or not when
Right.
something is real and when something isn't. It's
Mhm.
like stunt work. It's like
Mhm.
it's a scientific experiment that people react internally and mentally different when watching stunts performed by live people than watching stunts that have been computer generated.
Mm.
There's just something about them that you don't connect as
You
well.
don't
Doesn't mean they
connect.
don't enjoy it. It just means
Right.
they react different.
Mhm.
So when you watch a film, let's say Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, the very first Pirates of the Caribbean
Mhm.
film, all those they made a push on that film. All those stunts were real. There were
Practical.
real people doing real stuff,
Mhm.
and and it really hit a chord. It really hit a tone because pirate films really traditionally haven't been money makers. Big money makers, and that one, of course, they had the blessing of having Johnny Depp
Johnny
play a
Depp.
character that
Yeah.
immediately was endearing to everyone, but it resonated. Just everything resonated so well with the audiences. It really just made a ton of money and made a ton of films after that. So,
Right.
but I really feel like I'm interested to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
glad to be around at this point in time. I want
Yeah.
to see where it goes. If it puts me out of business, well, there's something else I'll have to find to do.
I mean, yeah.
It's not going to keep me from doing what I'm already doing. I just may not be able to get paid for it. I don't know.
Right.
So.
Right. And I agree. I think there'll always be some place for the stunts, like you said, because people want to know if it's real or not. And it kind of takes me back to I don't know. I guess it's been like 20 years ago or so now. But Tony Jaa, when he came out with
Ong Bak.
yeah, and that was the claim. It was like no wires and
No stunt double.
no stunt doubles,
Yeah.
right? And you watch the things he does, and you're like, he didn't have a wire. I mean, it just makes it so much more cool. And you could have done the same thing with a wire, even made it better. But
There's something visceral about real action.
it is, yes.
And I think that's, if something's supposed to be on the spectrum of this is reality, then if that's what the story's about, I feel like you need to stick around there a little
Right.
bit.
I think
now,
so,
if it's
too.
superhero and
Yeah.
stuff, I get it. You're going to need to be over the top. But, or you could even be a little bit under that, if depending on what you want, what you're going
Right.
for. If, it's not supposed to look. I always hear this from the director. I don't want it to look like a stunt. Like, what is? I don't know what you mean. Other than
I don't want it to look
get it
stunty.
if it's being if it's being overperformed, I get
Yeah,
it. But
yeah.
other than that, a stunt's going to be a stunt.
It's gonna be a
Somebody
stunt.
hitting the ground is going to be somebody hitting the ground.
Yeah.
But you get a feel for what that means in your own head, and you just
Right.
go with it. Oh, it's exactly what I wanted. Or can we make it less? Less what?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why the superhero movies are kind of going down now because we've seen so much of them, but also it's like you have two people who are superhero strength fighting each other. You start losing being invested in it because they can take so much pain, they can take so many hits, and it just goes on and on.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with storytelling, though, more than a problem of the characters. Because if two people are, say, equally powered, then what should happen, in my opinion, is that their fight should look a little more normal.
Yeah.
But the emphasis will be on certain moves that one gets the other one, and then
Right.
that shows the power in
power in
it.
it.
That's my opinion personally, because then that's going to show. I think that's more relatable to people because if two people are super powered, why is every move doing this and this? They should look kind of normal.
It
right?
should, yeah. So a punch that would normally throw a guy across the room is another guy. It's just going to be like a normal punch again.
Yeah, unless it's a specific, there's a reason.
A specific move.
Yeah. So, and you can let the audience in on that later or earlier or whatever, Because I think that what I feel might be missing from superhero movies is learning curves. It seems like superheroes tend to, unless it's an origin story, tend to already be at whatever level the
Their
story
max.
needs them. And on some films, their powers appear. Other films, same actor, same character, same everything. They're not very good.
Right.
The writing makes them very heroic in this film. The next film, they're a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
I know.
those are story problems. Those aren't genre or actor or performance problems. That's just story problems.
Inconsistencies and
I mean, if you're wanting to destroy a character that's been given to you that everyone loved, then I think you got the wrong person for the job at that point. That person should be hiring people that don't want to destroy these characters. They want them to become even more endeared. You know, now if you want to find a specific flaw that doesn't destroy them, but actually helps you have you put a little interesting twist on things that turns them into, if they're supposed to be heroic, a horrible person or something, I'm like, well, yeah, I think fans will react to that in a positive way. But if you're just going to make them a bumbling idiot and also a horrible person and also this and also that, and you don't give a crap what they think about it, the character or the history of the character or anything, go make your own character. Go make your own superhero. I don't know. Well, why are you screwing up someone else's? Someone else's thing. No, it doesn't. Again, I'm not on the fence that totally ruins the character, because I'm like, well, you have the other films. I've read a book 5 million times, and not 5 million, but if I have a book I enjoy, I will read it over and over again. I don't get any less enjoyment out of it. Just because I know what's about to happen. If I read a sequel to it and I don't really like it, I may read that once. I'll keep reading this one.
Keep reading this one.
I'm like, I don't understand. I don't. Does it have to? It doesn't have to live in your conscious like this anchor or something. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, do you have any upcoming projects or things coming out that you've recently worked on that you want to promote or talk about?
Hulu. Earlier this year, I stunt coordinated a Hulu episodic based on the Murdoch murders, which was I think there was a Netflix documentary on it.
I did see something like that recently, right? I believe.
Yeah, it's there's a Netflix documentary that is like, and it goes into the documentary style of what happened. That was in South Carolina, south part of South Carolina, Hampton County. This lawyer who, he was a personal injury lawyer, but his family had been in the county for generations, and lawyers and judges and stuff, and so they were very well connected and stuff. And he ended up, he was not doing good stuff, and also getting a little strung out on, supposedly getting strung out on drugs and stuff. But anyway, ended up killing his wife and his younger son, and then trying to make it look like, there's a whole cacophony of events that happens that lead up to this. But he was convicted of that, but he says that that's not what happened. That it was because of an event that happened a few years earlier. That an accidental death happened. That someone was trying to take the family out. So. But yeah, it's an interesting story. I thought it was well written. It was a lot of fun to work on. The showrunner and the writers and the directors, they were all fantastic. And
it was called the
yeah, it is called. I have it right here because it was called something different for us. Obviously, like they always are. Yeah. But this was on Variety or something. Hulu's Murdoch. Now it's spelled Murdoch, but it's pronounced Murdoch. I guess that's the Celtic or Scottish pronunciation for Murdoch is Murdoch. But it's Murdoch: Death in the Family is I guess what that's going to be called at this point anyway. It could change again. They often do, but yeah, that's going to be out. I guess drop sometime this fall. I'm assuming they didn't really
say
tell
for
me
sure.
when it was going to drop. But
we're looking for that on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. I think it'd be interesting to watch. It's a performance, so it's not. With actors, it's not trying to be a documentary, but they were the showrunners and the writers, they were trying to be very specific on things that were well investigated for the trial. All the information for the trial and stuff that was supposedly happened in a certain way, they tried to show it without leaning one way or the other. They tried to show it.
Oh, I see. I see. That's got to be hard to... Yeah.
It was very strange for me. I've not worked on something. I mean, I've worked on things that were based on true stories, but you're going miles away from them usually. Usually based on a true story means something happened, but we're telling this story.
Right.
It's kind of like a director told me once, there are some actors, they need a script for the sole reason to have something to deviate from. But
Yeah.
But
True.
it's strange when you're setting up, especially the murder scene, or what's considered what was a murder scene, no matter what happened, whether he did it or someone else did it, because it was something that really happened, and they were setting it up according to the investigative, the police photos and everything. It's almost like being at somebody else's funeral or something. It was a very strange feeling and very emotional, very heavy.
So
Weight
basically, they haven't come up with a conviction on this guy
They
yet?
did, but supposedly that's the clerk of the courts did something that they weren't supposed to do. So that's he had appealed the decision anyway.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then the clerk, what also has come out that I read, whether it's true or not, was the clerk of the court was writing a book about things that they had been involved with, and they used some evidence or something that they weren't supposed to from that trial in their book. I think, I'm not sure. That's what I was gathering. So that could be grounds to overturn a conviction, but he definitely was convicted. So
okay.
but that's and it's just strange. Anytime you're on something that's real, that really happened. It's just kind of, I don't know. I always
so it's like a reenactment sort of.
Yeah, it's not following as far as everything leading up to it. The story's a little condensed.
Okay.
It took a few more years for some of the things to happen,
I see.
and maybe this happened actually here before this, but they're doing it. Some things that there are some things for storytelling you have to kind of mess with. So it's not. It's not trying to not tell the story, but it's not being a documentary where it's supposed to be, well, on the night of the 13th, and then the night of the 12th, and then, whatever.
But in the making of, they're not allowed to say he's guilty. Or they are.
I think it's not that they were not allowed. It was interesting to me. Because I didn't follow when the case was happening, like in 2022 or whatever. I wasn't really following it. I'd heard about it because it was on the news, but I didn't just dig into it. But there are a lot of people that think that he was framed, and there are a lot of people that think that he did it in the country.
Okay.
I went to a family gathering from one of our son's fiance's family, and they had a dinner, and then that's while we were still filming that, and they asked, they knew I was in the stunt business. They asked me if I was working on it. I said I was doing, this thing about the Murdoch murders, and half the room said, I think you set up, I don't think you did, and I'm like, if I wasn't on this show, I don't know that I would have that, quick of an opinion on stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want my opinion, I don't think the either studio or the production team were trying to tiptoe too much. I don't think they wanted to just put things out there that were defamatory without reason. If it said in court, I think it was valid, but I think they also want people to be able to watch it without thinking it's just shoving a story down their throat if they believe the other side.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the way I was kind of taking it.
Yeah.
So, which I think is smart.
Yeah.
I think why not?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
But so I mean, they did a thing at the end of it to wrap it all up. But the acting was great, and I just feel like if people give it a shot, I think they're gonna enjoy. Because there's a lot of stories going on. There's his story, his wife's story, his older son's story, his younger son's story. There's people in the peripheral. There was a reporter that was kind of just trying to follow the whole situation because of other things that were going on that wasn't necessarily from the area. And she's the one, that was kind of broke those stories. She had a podcast called The Murdoch Murders after that had happened and stuff. And so it was very interesting how all that stuff was being tied together in a non-documentary script kind of fashion. Not really. Obviously, they're portraying things, not telling things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And the actors were all really good actors and really dialed into the moments, and the directors were fantastic as well. But is everything going to match? No, because just that's just not what it was designed to. The important
Right.
stuff, they tried to, try to be as close as they could.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't think anybody wants to get sued. People can sue you for anything. It just
Right.
depends on whether or not it's held as valid.
Yeah.
But I think that they were trying to tell what they felt was an important story. And I think it is an important story because, how can I mention something in the middle of a room full of people that I'm not necessarily all that close to?
Yeah.
And half of them say this and half of them say that, immediately.
So right there, there's a lot of controversy, and that always makes for interesting storytelling. And
I think so. I
interest.
think it creates. I mean, and I don't think it's trying to knock anybody's socks. I think it's just trying to be true to the subject matter, and take it seriously is another thing. Because I think it can be at a point if you've already decided that, well, this is the answer, and then you're just heavy-handed on it. Well, is that really presenting the subject matter very well? So I think that
I agree.
the way that the production handled it, the writers and the showrunner especially, he was great, and I think that they were handling it the way it needed to be handled as an important story, within itself, present it
Right.
in a way that is honest, even though it's not,
Right.
technically a documentary or something like that, but it's just trying to be honest with facts and, because on any given day, any of us can do stuff. I'm not trying to talk about killing anybody, but on any given day, any of us can do stuff that we wouldn't normally do on on the rest of our lives.
Right. Yeah.
So, something can happen and suddenly, we've accidentally run off the road and maybe mowed down somebody's fence, So
Yeah.
I don't normally drive like that, but I guess I did that today, without having some kind of alcohol or something. But, so I think that it was handled delicately, but not because of fear of anything. I think it was being held delicately because the story deserved it. I guess is the best way to. Now that's what we shot. Obviously, I can't say how it was edited because I've not seen any of that. But that's how it was shot. I remember the big thing when I was in undergraduate school. It was emphasized stage is a performer's medium, and television and film are a director's editor's medium.
That's so true.
So what you do on stage is done.
Yes.
What you do on lens
Is up for
can be done a
interpretation.
lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that's in post. Post decide. Post really can make or break a project. It can totally change a project.
Yeah.
And they do it all
Definitely.
the time. But they're they're the ones that are handling the story at that point.
Yeah.
So you can't take ownership
I
of it.
think that's one of the hardest things in doing stunts is just so many times you do something and you're like looking forward to seeing it, and then when you watch how they edited it and it looks terrible. It's like I can't even use that on my reel now.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
We Jeff
But we're not
Haverstad-
that important in the whole big scheme of things sometimes. Like
Well,
we think
there are a lot of
we
reasons that they do stuff, and
Yeah.
if they're story reasons, then sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Or if it's the
Right.
take, because sometimes it's the cut. They needed to use that shot because the cut needed to be later, and they couldn't cut. That was the take they needed. Who
Yeah.
knows? Jeff Haverstad and I, we went in that very first season of Alias. We went in. Jeff was the stunt coordinator. We went in and to the editing bay a couple of times early in that first season. Just to, because I think someone asked us to just go check or something like that, and we went in and we looked at the, just for the action parts, and we were watching one of the fight things, and there's like a total miss, like must have been a coverage shot, and then they took the raking or the 50-50 shot because it was like total miss, and I was like, we have coverage of that.
Yeah. Why did they use
And
that?
the editor was like, oh, I see. Yeah, it's a myth. Went through and dug it out, and how's this? And to me, it didn't
sold.
change the flow at all. But it sold and it
Yeah.
looked better.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the cuts flowed the same and all that kind of stuff. But then whenever the broadcast came out, it was switched back. So I don't know. I don't know. I am sure that there are reasons for stuff, but we're not always privy to
Sometimes
that.
we're
But
not privy to it.
that's the whole thing. If you're
Yeah.
on the performance side of it, once you've done your performance, you got to let it go.
Right.
You know, let them do what they will.
They'll
And
do what they will. Well, so you were coordinating Vampire Diaries for a while, right?
no, John Medlin
Oh, John Medlin.
coordinated after John Copeman. He coordinated season 5 and 6,
Okay.
and then
And then
Paul Burke coordinated
Burke took
season
over.
6 and 7.
Okay.
But I did help John quite a bit on season 5, but then I got the job second season of Originals, stunt coordinating the originals, and then
That's funny.
yeah.
I in the back, I guess. But yeah. Originals and Gotham Knights there.
Yeah, Gotham Knights. I know you got the swag on.
Yeah.
So I wasn't on as much for, and then John also got a second unit gig on a film. Was it a film or another episodic? Anyway, he had to do some helicopter shots up in Oregon or Washington State. So then so Brett Jones came in and covered, coordinated until he got back. But, you know, that to me, you know, Vampire Diaries felt a little bit like, you know, to date ourselves on our age, a little bit like, you know, Melrose Place, you know, a little bit just, you know, as a vampire version of it. And then Originals felt a little bit more like The Sopranos, you know, family, you know, it was more gritty, that kind of thing. And then Legacies, I was stunt coordinator on that as well, and it felt a little bit more like, you know, Xavier School for Gifted Children, and mixed with Hogwarts, you know, that kind of thing.
Because Legacies goes way back at the beginning.
No,
right?
Legacies was Klaus's daughter.
Oh, so is it Originals that went before that one goes back?
The Originals are the original vampires.
Original vampires.
So it was a little bit all over the place. I mean, a lot of scenes and episodes were about, you know, when they first turned and all that kind of stuff, and then, but most of it was in modern day New Orleans.
Okay.
Well, modern day,
So they could jump
10
back
years
and forth.
ago or whatever. So.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is interesting because you go, you know, working on Vampire Diaries, and I guess Originals too, all those, but like the stuff you would choreograph, but then they have to vamp it, and so then it like speeds it up and skips frames, and it just, you know, I understand it's for the story of how it works and stuff, but as a stunt person, you're like, oh, that doesn't show me doing anything, you know.
Yeah. But the nice thing about those supernatural shows is that generally you're on a wire at some point, and they didn't usually vamp the wires, speed up the wires, because that was supposed to be real speed.
That was the one that was disappointing, because I was on a wire on Vampire Diaries, and I think it must have been Paul Burke at the time, but they had it to where I think I was coming into a house, and it was a long hallway, and it was coming out of some kind of cave, right? So,
yeah, the underground part.
The underground, yeah. So I open the door and come running into the hallway, and basically, you know, as I get to a certain point, they yank me out, right? And so I go the distance, however far I run into the hallway, which maybe 6 or 8 feet or something, and then over some stairs to land, you know, out there. So, you know, it was okay, not great, but it was all right. But they had cameras, you know, shooting at different angles. And then when they actually went to show it, they used only a camera at the end of the hallway, pointing way down.
Yeah, so you're in the back of the frame.
Like, I'm this big.
Yeah.
And you can't even tell, like, how far you fly. I mean, all you see is you come through the door and then you're gone. And I'm like, wow, all of that? And that's what they use. Like, you could have just ran in there and self-motivated and had just the same.
Well, you have to understand, Vampire Diaries and Originals and even Legacies, those shows, stunts were a device for those shows. Those shows were about the decisions being made, why they're being made, you know, the interpersonal relationships, but not only between.
It's, like you said, it's kind of a soap opera
drama.
Ish.
It was story oriented versus action.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was on like Chuck or Alias, I mean, or if you're on a superhero show or something, well, stunts are a very strong leg of that table. You know, that's a strong leg of that show. So it's going to be featured a certain way. But when stunts are an element of the show or part of the show that is needed to explain the supernatural stuff, but it's not integral to the story.
The story, yeah.
Then yeah, they're going to make decisions in editing that aren't going to help us as stunt people at all.
Basically, they just need to know that this guy has superpowers, so when he goes like that, that guy goes flying through the door.
Yeah, what was the whole scene about? You know, watching the scene, I could probably get pretty close because I'm pretty good at this now, knowing. Well, I know why they made that decision, but I hate that they did that to the stunt. But yeah, I mean, the scene probably was. They probably actually on the first, touch on the editing probably had the stunt more featured, but they felt like it overtook the tone of the scene or something like that.
Right.
So if that's the case, then I get. Well, let's just make the stunt still looks good from here, but it's a fly on the wall, so you can't really see it that well. But at least we know something happened.
Something happened.
So, which isn't a good condolence, but
no.
at least they had a reason for it. Is the only thing I can say. But I don't. To me, I don't like people risking their lives and not being able to see it on screen. That's just me as a stunt coordinator and a stunt person myself. It's like.
Plus, you're there on the day and you see how much it takes to set up the rigging, how many riggers got to be hired, bring in the pad, whatever, all the rehearsal the day before. Seems like such a waste sometimes to us.
Well, if you think about that, that's the problem with stunts in general or action in general, really, because dialogue, a page of dialogue is about a minute of screen time. A page of stunts can take you
seconds,
weeks to film, even
and
depending on what it is.
Screen.
But yeah, you're talking about maybe 20 seconds of screen time if you're lucky, or less. So that's the problem is with an action-based project is it's kind of tricky how you figure those things out, So because the stunts are always going to take a lot longer to set up and even capture correctly than it is to what the stunt actually does. And I think that also kind of, even if they watch the rehearsal videos to approve the stunts, I think that seeing the scene put together kind of tells them a little bit how they want that stunt presented. So I feel that I doubt that someone is not presenting a stunt for no reason, but doesn't mean that they won't. But I just would always rather doubt that they're doing it because if nothing else, the check cleared, right? So
exactly. Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's what matters in the end. So,
but I hear you. I mean, it's frustrating to have, even if it's a really big, well thought out and interesting fight, and then you watch it and they've turned it into 8 moves or something. It's like, and none of it's, and it's just most of it is on other people going, and then they do 3 moves and it's like, okay, we had a good fight. And what I don't like about most of that is when the actors are doing really well, because if the actors were on their face, we're seeing them do some good stuff and they don't put it in, I'm like, I mean, it's
waste.
our, we know the deal. They're not wanting to show us. I get it, but that's your actor. That's your money. That's your money machine.
Make him look good.
And you're not showing them.
Yeah,
this is some really good stuff they did.
Yeah.
So.
Right. If Tom Cruise was there, I don't think they'd let it.
No, that's because he's also producing and money.
He's everything.
He's in the editing bay going, no, I don't think we're going to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's making his own reality.
He is. He is. He is. He's making his own Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate you having me out. Dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're
at the 12-hour mark.
Yeah, 12-hour. We're going to have to do a forced call here, doubled overtime. But no, man, it was so fun having you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me out, and I hope edits well together, and that I said a couple of things that doesn't sound too bad.
I
look forward to your podcast growing and becoming big.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. And that depends on you guys. So, I really would appreciate it if you guys, if you like this and you think it's good content, share it with somebody. And always, hit that like button. It helps me out. And subscribe. All right. Until next time. Peace.
See ya.